Once these words were spoken, the silence was broken. You will be skinned and flayed by me. Your bones will be ground to dust. I stepped forward, leaving behind a thought-provoking remark, I spare your life. But heaven has its own judgments. We are sparing your life today out of respect for the young master, but the underworld's ghosts won't let you go. Wait to be dragged into the Avicii hell. Upon hearing this, the female Taoist priest, with a face full of anger, I said harshly that you will definitely end up like the Tian family. She roared in anger, you all wait for me. One day, I will definitely come back for revenge. He always sneered at this, saying, as a Taoist priest of the Maoshan sect, not only have you committed countless evil deeds, you've lost all conscience. The female Taoist's face was marked with several scratches. Then, Huang Laodok grabbed his hair. Amid a series of ghostly screams, a dwarf old woman with a saintly appearance appeared before everyone. The female ghost saw her modesty cover being revealed. The eldest of the Huang family angrily said to the female ghost, the young master said he would spare your life, but you harmed the descendants of my Huang family. This is absolutely unforgivable. As he spoke, he raised his hand to grab the female ghost. There was a hissing sound, to a long and prosperous life. After hearing this, he quickly bowed. Thank you, Grandma. Just as everyone was rejoicing over the resolution, then she turned around and handed it to Jonan. Fortunately, Xiao Yu's child and Che hadn't been refined yet. You take him back. Bury him under the pine tree. Old Pine will bless Xiao Yu with no illness or disaster thereafter. She replied with a smile, good grandson. I'll handle Xiao Yu's matter. She pressed her grandmother's palm into the Taoist priestess's abdomen. After a bit of stirring, she pulled out a lump of flesh. Thinking about this, Jonan made a decision. The Taoist master asked me to give him a chance before, but I'm afraid he'll come out again to harm others. And Xiao Yu's placenta hasn't been dealt with yet. When Aunt Grandma heard this, waiting for his decision, upon seeing this, Jonan recalled the plea of the Taoist before he left. If possible, please spare my junior sister's life. Don't let him be scared out of his wits. Seeing this, Hui Laolu stepped forward, pinned the priestess down firmly. This immortal demands silence. Don't scare the young master. Everyone then turned to Jonan. Kid, did you really meet my senior brother? Where is he exactly? Why is he hiding and not coming to see me? Why is he so heartless? Jonan was startled by her shrill voice and took a step back. Now you still dare to use the 5-ghost burial technique against us. The priestess scoffs coldly at this. I've fallen into your hands. Kill me or torture me, do whatever you want. She shouted emotionally towards Jonan. A shadow of a dragon tightly binds the Taoist priestess to the rock wall. Auntie Granny appears. She mocks coldly, wicked beast. Stop struggling. Your iron coffin was subdued by Granny 10 years ago. The female Taoist stood there, stunned. The ghost warrior she had carefully arranged for so long, was completely wiped out in an instant. While she was in shock, Chang Huayuan waved his hand. The originally fierce monster was torn in half. Blood splattered everywhere. The fox spirit family, seeing this, refused to back down. Its sharp claws swiftly extended. The white fox tore through, cutting the haunted house in half. They roared and charged out. Seeing this situation, the other 3 immortals also rushed forward together. Bai Wuwei grabbed the situation ahead. With a loud crack, as she spoke, a dark aura surrounded her, ordering the ghosts below to launch an attack. No ghosts will be buried. I command you to kill them all. The monsters received the command. Today, I'll make your soul scatter. The female ghost sensed that the situation was not right, and hurriedly floated above the crowd. Then she proclaimed that since everyone wants me dead, none of you will have it easy. He let out a furious roar. With his remaining ghostly hand, he reached out to grab. Seeing this situation, Elder Lu Xianchang used a palm strike to interrupt the female ghost's attack. You dare to harm young Master Chang, just to wear her skin yourself. All this time, you've been called the ugly Taoist by outsiders. You've been harboring this in your heart all along, haven't you? The Taoist's fig leaf was revealed by Jonan. After hearing that for so long, he felt a sudden shock. Cold sweat immediately broke out. He asked the female Taoist the question in his heart. 100 years ago, you deliberately urged the Tian family to flay that concubine, and said disdainfully, although you look hideous, and your flesh smells unbearable, but luckily, my life is cheap, so I'm never picky about food. Upon closer inspection, a gray-white rat was gnawing on a severed arm in its mouth. After he landed, he transformed into the figure of Hui Lao Lu. He spit out the meat scraps from his mouth. At this critical moment, a figure broke through the void. With a soft sound, the female Taoist's arm was instantly severed. Immediately, a wailing echoed throughout the chaotic graveyard. How do you have my senior brother's things in your hand? Where did you see him? Jonan scoffed, why should I tell you? The female Taoist roared in anger at this. Zhang opened his claws and rushed toward Jiunan. A crack suddenly appeared in the mound before them. A hideous and terrifying face emerged from within. The ghost was the wicked female Taoist that even the Wuxian family couldn't find despite their best efforts. He floated out with the other 4 ghosts. Looking surprised, he shouted at Jiunan, "Brat. She just accepted it." Then, the group followed the compass to the center of the graveyard. But at that moment, aside from a few tombstones, there was no sign of a haunted house. Just as Jiunan was feeling puzzled. But before Jiunan could finish speaking, Hu Feier transformed into a white fox and jumped onto her shoulder. Then rubbed her forehead disdainfully against Jiunan's. It made a whimpering sound. Seeing this, Jiunai sighed. "May I stay by your side, young sir, serving you in your daily needs tomorrow?" Jiunan immediately refused, saying, "There's no need for that. I haven't really done anything. Besides, having a girl constantly by my side would be inconvenient. You are too kind. This is just a small effort." After hearing this, Huier blushed and said, "Young master, I have an unreasonable request." Her face flushed with shyness, she slowly bowed to Jiunan. This humble girl, Hu Feier, greets her benefactor. Every word and action completely captivated Chen Daji, who was watching from the side. Jiunan hurriedly called him back to his senses. Then he respectfully replied, "Master Hu." Then she instructed the little fox. "Feier, hurry and thank the gentleman." Suddenly, there was a swoosh. The little fox from earlier transformed, turning into a graceful, heavenly beauty. "Could you take my apprentice along with you to broaden his horizons?" As he spoke, he walked out holding a pure white fox. "Young sir, this is my granddaughter. Previously, you helped to heal her bent leg. My granddaughter insisted on coming to treat you, sir. Just close your mouth." Just as a few people were preparing to chase after them, the head of the Hu family from the 5 immortals called out to Jiunan. "Please wait a moment, young sir. I have one more request." He quickly clung to Ba Ye's snake body, pleading shamelessly. "Wait, take me with you. I want to go too." Ba Ye helplessly replied in classical language. All right, stop talking so much." With an incredulous expression, he said, "How is this still my business?" Then, he suddenly shone with blue light. A huge serpent body abruptly appeared. Then it swished its tail and rolled up the 9 difficulties, preparing to rush over. Chen Daji saw that he wasn't included. After finishing speaking, the martial immortal transformed into a shadow and swept into the sky. In the green light, Chang Huayuan instructed, "Dad, take good care of the young master. We'll go ahead." As he spoke, Elder Chang fell to the ground in a sorry state. The compass needle started spinning rapidly, and then suddenly froze in place. Seeing this, everyone exchanged smiles. It's only been a few days, but Mr. Zhao's mastery of the Tao is truly impressive. Fire Phoenix Scarlet Command. Stand among the bamboo to escape disaster. If anyone dares to cause trouble. Before the words even finished, he then formed the sword of vigilance gesture. Chanting the incantation, no ghosts, rushing into the boundless bamboo. Enchanting mist burial. Manipulating the unseen. Leave the matter of the 5 ghosts to the Wu immortal family. Upon hearing this, Jiunan clasped her fists and said, "Brother Hui, I naturally have a way to find her." Suddenly, Jiunan took out the compass artifact given to him by the Taoist master. "Then my 1,000 years of cultivation have been in vain." Seeing this, Hui Laolu hurriedly calmed her down, saying, "Grandma Aunt, please don't be angry. The most urgent task now is to find that female Taoist's hiding place. Once we find her." Meanwhile, Granny Aunt furiously shouted, "I don't care if it's magic or not, but using my precious granddaughter's placenta to make paper is absolutely unacceptable." With that, Granny Aunt angrily tapped her pipe on the table, unleashing a terrifying aura all around her. Her face twisted with rage, she declared, "If I don't strip the soul from this beast and break it." As soon as Jiunan finished speaking, Chang Huan let out a long sigh, and said apologetically that the female Taoist was practicing this evil technique right under our noses. Yet we 5 immortals were completely unaware. Truly shameful. This technique not only possesses a terrifying power of its own, but can also manipulate the other 5 ghosts for its own use. Moreover, as long as one ghost remains unharmed, the caster can borrow a corpse to return to life, reviving on the spot. In this way, the caster absorbs the resentment of the 5 ghosts. He can then be reborn, and extend his life. Thus, the 5 ghosts burial method is completed. The spellcaster can then use their resentment for cultivation. As for the burial method, the person who killed the leader must be buried in a land of extreme misfortune, where a white tiger with murderous energy resides. Then use human skin to craft a lantern for the soul master to refine souls. Finally, the caster uses ghost magic to control him. forcing him to personally kill the direct descendant of his bloodline. He slowly picked up the ancient book in his hand and said, "The Five Ghosts Burial Method is a dark art from Maoshan texts that enhances power and prolongs life. This spell requires selecting one person as the leader. Have someone skin and draw their tendons. Then use an iron coffin to trap their soul, subjecting them to endless torment until they die." She did all this to complete the evil technique of the ghostless burial method. Chang Huayuan was greatly astonished upon hearing this. "The ghostless burial method? What is that? Could you please elaborate, sir?" After a long silence, Chang Huayuan raised his glass and said, "I didn't expect the young master to find a lead so quickly. I truly feel ashamed compared to you." After a long time of listening, I respectfully recalled the memories. Then I spoke the truth about the matter, the iron coffin and the human skin lanterns. All of these were made by that cursed female Taoist from the Tian family. Please contact Master Wu later. I found a way to deal with that female Taoist. Time passed quickly. Before long, it was evening. At this time, Master Wu was sitting at the table drinking tea. Lompa turned to Jonan and asked, "Little Jiu, why are you in such a rush to come back?" Jonan immediately took out the ancient book given by Yi. Excitedly, she said, "Grandma, I was just about to tell you." After saying that, he turned and ran outside. He kept shouting, "Aunt, I'll go back and check first. I'll visit you again after some time." Watching the father and son leave in a hurry, Chen Daji looked at his father's strange expression, and quickly asked, "Dad, what's wrong? Is something going on?" Chen's father turned, panic on his face, and replied, "Our mine has uncovered a stone wall." Chen's father's big brick phone on his waist started ringing. He quickly answered it. All I heard over the phone was an urgent shout, "Boss, there's a major incident at the mine. You need to come over quickly." And no human remains were found nearby. Grandma Long paused in thought. She said, "It's hard to say for sure. Maybe it's because of grave robbers, who knows?" But before Grandma Long could finish, "Your taste is really heavy." Soon, Chen's father tidied himself up. He got up and asked the aunt his burning question. "Since this thing was from a dead person, how could he have been dug up in the mine on my property?" Remembering that he had kissed the jade with his mouth earlier, he immediately knelt down on the ground. He couldn't stop vomiting. Chen Daji mocked his dad gleefully from behind. "You actually licked something that was in someone's butt. Which part of the 9 apertures jade is my dad holding?" Granny, looking awkward, replied, "This jade is cone-shaped. It's probably used to plug the..." Hearing this, Chen's father immediately felt a shock, shouting, "Damn, is this thing really that sinister? I can't believe I treated it so carefully before." Just as he was showcasing his expertise, the bystander Chen Daji curiously asked Granny, "In ancient beliefs, this method could prevent one's body from decaying, offering a chance to become immortal." After hearing this, Chen's father stared at the jade on the ground in shock. "But this is a piece of Yin jade, and it's the most sinister 9 orifices jade. Humans are born with 9 orifices. They are the 2 eyes, 2 ears, nose, mouth, anus, and genitals. The 9 orifices jade refers to using 9 jade swords to seal the 9 orifices of a dead person." He broke out in a cold sweat, muttering, "Isn't jade supposed to ward off disasters? It could even threaten my life." The old lady sighed. She slowly said, "Ordinary jade can indeed ward off disasters." But before Chen's father could finish speaking, he saw Lompa grab the jade and smash it on the ground. She scolded him, "Are you trying to get yourself killed? Why are you carrying all this stuff?" When Chen's father heard, "Killed," "I still think the original yellow looked better. What do you know? This is called nurturing jade. It's because he has been with me for a long time. It naturally turned out this way. And I've had the axe you gave me, aunt. Plus, with this ancient jade of mine, I can say there are no taboos." Seeing this, Chen Daji curiously asked why it changed color. She shouted in shock, "Your forehead is dark. This is a bad omen. Blood is about to spill. Have you been in contact with something unclean lately?" But my father just smiled and said, "I've been at the mine recently." Early the next morning, Father Chen drove the extended Cadillac to pick them up from school. As soon as they arrived home, the old lady greeted him with a big smile. As soon as she saw my father, "Tomorrow, bring this book to Grandma and let her have a look. She will definitely be able to catch that female Taoist priest." Before long, a wave of drowsiness washed over her. She closed her eyes and peacefully fell asleep. He had drawn the surrounding spiritual energy towards him. Looking at the contents of the ancient book, Jonan felt a sense of familiarity, as if he had learned this before. Thinking of this, Jonan took a deep breath to calm himself. "Do you really need to turn on the lights just to use the bathroom?" Jill looked on, speechless. He hurriedly closed the book, stopped what he was doing, just now, with a casual move. Just as he finished speaking, A flash of white light radiated from around him. The commotion instantly woke up Chen, who had been sleeping across from him. He rubbed his eyes, and groggily complained to his friend. He formed a sword hand sign, sat cross-legged, and chanted Taoist mantras. Lin, Bing, Do Zhe. Everyone lined up in formation. Jiu Nan stared at the yellowing ancient book. He was chanting the Mao Shan spells and Taoist incantations. These spells included divine prescriptions, transformations of spirits and monsters, notes on capturing them, and cures for illnesses. They recorded all strange occurrences in the world. 9 difficulties then began practicing according to the ancient methods in the book. Dao Yi was already radiating a dazzling light, and slowly sinking into the ground, where he disappeared. Only a simple compass remained, and a 10-centimeter peachwood dagger. After listening, Jiu Nan replied with a serious expression, "I'll do my best." But her sins are heavy. Even heaven won't easily forgive him. But before Jiu Nan could finish speaking, "Please, don't reject this humble offering of mine. I ask for nothing in return. Just, if it's possible, please spare my junior sister's life. Don't let her soul be completely destroyed. I'll give them to you as well. With the help of the Northern V's martial star, subduing him shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be difficult. It's rare to see such valuable gifts from the Taoist master." Just as he was about to decline, the Taoist master interrupted him. "I have practiced the Mao Shan arts for 100 years. All my techniques come from this book. Young friend, once you master it, you'll naturally find me, impatient junior sister, and these magical tools." Then the Taoist priest took out an ancient yellowed book from his robes and said, "My time is limited. I will soon complete my deeds, and take up a position in the underworld. As for the doubts in your heart, I will keep it brief." Jiu Nan hurriedly asked the question on his mind, "Taoist master, do you know the mastermind behind all this? Isn't she the female Taoist from back then?" The Taoist master nodded, acknowledging, "You're right, my young friend. She is indeed my junior sister." Then he sighed again. "When he harmed people 100 years ago with his iron coffin skin technique, I should have stopped him back then. Now that he's completed the ghostless burial technique, I deeply regret it." Just as he was lost in thought, the Taoist master turned around, smiled, and said, "Sorry to have kept you waiting, young friend Hua. Tonight, I wanted to discuss the strange happenings in your Judao Valley village with you." Upon hearing this, Jiu Nan quickly recounted all that had recently transpired in the village. The Taoist master remained silent for a long time after listening. After hearing this, the Taoist raised his hand and recalled the infinite celestial venerable. "Congratulations to all of you for finally being liberated. This is truly joyful news." After hearing this, the spirits were at ease and dissipated into tiny specks of sorrowful light. But watching all this from behind, Jiu Nan felt a deep sense of respect rising in his heart. They all faced the Taoist and knelt to express their gratitude. "You have spent 100 years guiding us. Today, we can finally shed our sins. We will enter the underworld and be reborn. Your great kindness can only be repaid in the next life." Jiu Nan quickly turned his head to look. He saw a group of bizarre and twisted souls appear before his eyes. Meanwhile, Master Dao sat cross-legged, chanting, "Floating life, super golden coating." Soon, a white light enveloped the ghosts' bodies. Outside the house, it is already snowing heavily. Amidst the flurry, Jiu Nan came alone to the school backyard. He shouted towards the empty playground, "Master Dao, are you there?" As soon as the words fell, a strange gust of eerie energy whistled past. "I hope the young friend will wait in the backyard." After listening to Jiu Nan, he would understand the reason that helped him escape the haunted house at that time. He immediately replied loudly, "Dao Yi, we will not part at the hour of the pig." At 1 a.m. in the deep of night, the two reluctantly returned home. At this moment, Jiu Nan was walking to the dormitory. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out from a distance, "Xiao Yu, I have some matters I would like to consult you about. Tonight at the hour of the pig. You should wear it. He will protect you when you encounter danger." After expressing gratitude, a mysterious bond has formed between the two of them. As the bell rang, it was the first time in Jonan's life that a girl had given him something. This sudden moment left him at a loss. Then, he took out a glowing scale and handed it to Su Fangchao. "I didn't prepare anything special. This is a reverse dragon scale given by the Earth Spirit Immortal's eldest brother. It's also the protective charm I carry with me. Thank you for tutoring me. This is a cake I made myself. Try it and see if it tastes good. If you like it, I can make it for you again next time." As she spoke, she handed the cake to Jonan. "I didn't mean to." Su Fangchao smiled faintly. She then reached into her school bag, and took out a strawberry cake. With a shy expression, she said, "Huajiyunan." Sensing something unusual, Jiu Nan turned to look. Their eyes met. A blush appeared on both of their faces. Jiu Nan hurriedly backed away. repeatedly apologizing, "I'm sorry." Upon hearing this, Jonan's expression softened, and quickly responded, "Of course." Then, Su Fangchao and Jiunan sat under the tree discussing problems. At that moment, Jiunan was earnestly teaching from the textbook, but she didn't notice that Su Fangchao's attention was entirely on her face. Chen Daji blushed and said, "Boss, don't make fun of me." While the two were messing around, Su Fangchao walked over and said, "Jonan, can you explain that question to me again? Otherwise, I won't recognize all the zombies in the future. It's rare to see Deji like this." He chuckled. "Isn't that right? I heard that the love letter you wrote to Li Yun last time was full of spelling mistakes. Born from the grievances of heaven and earth. Immortal and indestructible." Chen Deji was shocked to hear this. "There are so many types of zombies. It seems I need to study hard. A corpse that remains intact for 1,000 years, but it cannot move on its own. You could say it's complete. Decay is inevitable. A zombie baptized by thunder, with iron bones, able to travel through heaven and earth without decaying. After death, his skeleton absorbed the essence of the sun and moon. Refine it into the bones. Make sure the bones never decay. Agile in movement, able to walk on walls, unafraid of sunlight and flames. Fei Jiang is a zombie who has cultivated for 1,000 years. He can use magic in battle. Its jumping ability is extremely high. It doesn't fear humans or livestock. Only sunlight. The corpse is covered with spears, and is known for its copper skin and iron bones. They fear sunlight. Also afraid of water, fire, and poultry. The one below is the green zombie. The moisture emitted from its body is green, just like its surface. Compared to the white and black zombies, they can barely keep parts of their bodies intact. Next are the white and black zombies. The corpses are either white or black in color. They move slowly, very easy to deal with. During this process, the corpse undergoes continuous changes. Zombies are categorized into 8 different forms, from low to high. The lowest is the purple zombie, which is also the newly formed zombie. Their whole bodies turn purple. The Tian father and son might not even count as zombies. Zombies refer to those who die with unresolved grievances. Their resentment builds up in the cerebellum while alive. Under the influence of corpse poison or the feng shui of the burial site, they undergo a corpse transformation, and a 40-meter-long machete. "Can I handle a zombie?" Jiu Nan waved his hand and said, "Don't make things worse. Zombies are quite complicated." Chen Daji broke out in a cold sweat after hearing it. "So that means, there are already 2 zombies in the village now. By the way, is this zombie powerful?" "With my skills." Jiu Nan was startled after hearing this. "The red-clad vicious ghost has come out to harm people again." He immediately informed Chief Zhou. He would discuss the sacrificial ritual with everyone once he returned. Not long after, Jiu Nan mentioned the recent events to Chen Daji on the playground. As he spoke, Director Zhou sighed. After all, Tian Jigang was a public official in the town. Now he died so mysteriously, and even the body has disappeared. "I'm under a lot of pressure from above." He killed his own son, Tian Jigang. He said he was going home. They saw that after Tian Jigang died, his body rose on the spot. He, along with Tian Laosi, was taken by a vengeful ghost in red and hid in the back mountain. Even Granny Long and the 5 immortals used all their power but couldn't find where they were hiding. Outside, Director Zhou was greeting him while carrying a leather bag. "It's getting colder. Your grandmother asked me to bring you some warm clothes. By the way, let me tell you about what's been happening in the village lately." Old Tian Si is still not caught. Something interrupted them like a light bulb. "Huajiyunan, someone's here to deliver something for you." Junan was startled upon hearing that. Could something have happened at home? He quickly went outside. In the blink of an eye, several days had gone by. But ever since that accident happened, the contact between Su Fangchao and Junan became more frequent. They exchanged ideas under the guise of discussing problems. But on this day, while they were discussing classwork, "Stop staring. Su Fangchao has already left. Are you feeling something for her?" After hearing these words, Junan chose to ignore them. Clearly, he was also silently acknowledging it in his heart. Time passed quickly. Su Fangchao's face turned as red as a ripe apple. Then she quickly turned around and fled the awkward classroom. Hua Junan stood there, looking bewildered. The instigator, Chen Daji, quickly walked up to him. "Boss. Sorry, classmate. I didn't mean to." But the girl next to her noticed the love letter in Junan's hand. She immediately shouted in shock. Hua Junan gave Su Fangchao a love letter. Hearing this, Junan couldn't stop himself and fell forward toward the girl. There was a loud thud. The two locked eyes. Blushing, they said nothing. Junan mumbled an unclear apology. Chen Daji quickly stuffed the love letter into Junan's hand, nervously saying, boss. I'll leave my happiness to you. Then he suddenly pushed him out. But Chindaji used a lot of strength. Chindaji started playing matchmaker randomly, boss. I think ordinary girls definitely aren't a good match. I think our class beauty Su Fengchao would suit you well. Just as he finished speaking, the classroom alarm suddenly went off. Is there anyone who fits your type? Jonan casually replied, school just started a few days ago, right? I haven't even gotten to know everyone in our class yet. How could I have a girl I like? Hearing this response, you're really a good person. When you find a girl you like, I'll help you pass the love letter too. By the way, boss, there are so many girls in our class. She could only reply helplessly, I know. Let go of me. We'll talk after class. Seeing that his goal was achieved, Chindaji muttered with a grin, boss, if you deliver the love letter to Li Yun, he will definitely accept it. But if I go instead, he might just throw it straight into the trash. Jonan felt awkward about this action. After Chindaji heard this, he hurriedly grabbed Jonan's arm and pleaded with the eldest. I'm begging you, you're good at school, and you're handsome. After saying this, Chindaji took out a love letter. Nervously, he pulled the leader of Jonan over. Can you help me deliver this to Li Yun later? Seeing this, Jonan quickly refused, saying, you should deliver your own love letter. Jonan, puzzled, asked, Li Yun from our class. Chindaji said resolutely, that's right. It's definitely him, I've set my sights on him. Big butt, good for childbearing. What are you doing? Why aren't you paying attention? Chindaji, embarrassed, replied with a flushed face, boss, I want to pursue Li Yun. The scratching sound made Jonan, who was listening to the lecture, frown. Sensing Jonan's gaze, Chindaji immediately stopped what he was doing. He lay on the desk and sighed. Seeing this, Jonan quickly asked, Daji, but Uncle Chen likes it so much. I'll talk to him after I figure out the origin of this jade, but it won't take long. They soon arrived at the school. At this moment, Chindaji was doodling aimlessly in his textbook during class. It's an ancient jade from the Han dynasty. Jonan looked at this necklace, and was startled. The jade is surrounded by a sinister aura, which usually indicates it's a burial item. Chen Fubo, hearing him mention his treasure, picked up the necklace and kissed it. Xiao Jiu, you have a good eye. This was mine from our family's mine. I went to the county town to have an expert take a look. I'll go to the bank in a bit. Jonai replied with a smile. Uncle, you don't have to do this. As he spoke, he noticed Chen Fubo's necklace. Uncle, where did you get this necklace? After I made my offerings, the business at the mine improved a lot. Saying this, he turned to ask Jonai. Little Joe, old immortal, how much do we need? As soon as they got in the car, Chindaji brought up the temple construction. Father Chen replied confidently, we must donate money to repair the temple. That has to be done. Last time, the old master gave us an axe. If anything happens, please make sure to inform me. I'll ask Uncle Shui for help if needed. After giving the instructions, they set off towards the school. He shouted toward the house, Great Priest Jonan, I'm here to pick you all up. Hearing this, Jonan spoke with concern to Longpa. Grandma, I'll head to school now. Dad said he'll come pick you up soon. Jonan looked at Daji, this troublemaker. She sighed quietly. Not long after, the extended Cadillac pulled up outside the yard. Chen's father stepped out of the car with a beaming face. Director Zhou, standing nearby, gave him a hard smack on the head. You little brat. What are you butting in for? After you and Xiao Jiu finish eating, you need to head back to school and resolve this matter. Chindaji, upon hearing this, raised his hand excitedly to express his support for Grandma Long. I want to go help you too. But he hadn't finished speaking yet. Now how do we find him? Grandma Long stood up solemnly and said, don't worry, everyone. I've already prepared something to deal with the zombies. We will find Tian Laosi as soon as possible. He's so poor that he only has money left. The matter of Jianhui Xian has already been settled. I haven't been able to inquire about Tian Laosi's situation for a long time. According to the information from Sixth Brother, Tian Laosi ran to the village after he started the uprising. As she said this, Longpa hesitated a bit to murmur. Although we are not a wealthy family, but I will still do my best to support the temple construction for the benefit of the people. After hearing this, Chindaji smiled and said, Grandma, don't worry. I'll let my dad handle the temple building. You actually flew a gray line kite. Everyone looked at Jiona in confusion. Longpa was the first to speak, saying it was a good thing. Let me wave my hand to notify everyone. Quickly fix up the village temple. In the future, when we return home, we will surely follow your lead. As soon as they arrived home, Wang San had already prepared a feast. They all sat around, listening to Jonan recount the recent events. A scream suddenly came from inside the room. The little demon saw that the matter had already been resolved. Jonan turned around, ready to leave. I know about this news from sixth brother. I will avenge this child. Upon hearing this, Hui Lao Lu respectfully replied, thank you, young master. Hui Lao Lu looked at the innocent face of Jonan. A storm of emotions surged in his heart. Who exactly is this young master? Even the hands of the Wuxian family couldn't pull off such a feat with a kite. My child won't need to cultivate for 1,000 years to become the god of incense. Jonan, still confused, replied, I didn't do anything either. As long as it's a good thing, it's fine. Otherwise, I'll feel guilty for a long time. How could the state of mind trigger the kite sent by heaven? Only emperors or ancient deities can grant kites to animal cultivators. Once the kite is obtained, one can transform from a demon into a god. With just one word from you, young sir. A blue light emerged from Jonan's palm, enveloping the stiff corpse. A spirit floated out of the mouse's body, happily circling around Jonan. Hui Lao Lu saw this. When I return, I will ask my mother-in-law to set up a memorial tablet for you in the temple. They ask you to offer incense, to protect the village's safety. As soon as the words were spoken, the child was already cold. He was drained of blood and choked to death by Tian Laosi. Jonan saw this, and said to the already stiff body, I'm sorry. It's my family's issue that caused you trouble. Last night, I sent a kid to look for the evil ghost. In the middle of the night, he saw Tian Laosi crawl out of his grave and head toward his home. I had him follow Tian Laosi to see what he was up to, but when I arrived, did you need something from me? Hui Lao Lu looked sad and said, young master, I don't deserve to be called brother by you. I've come today to tell you about Tian Laosi's rising. Take grandma back first. I have a little matter to deal with. Then he followed the mouse's guidance and ran to Grey Six's side. Seeing this situation, Jonan asked in confusion, Brother Six. But at that moment, a small mouse tugged at his pant leg. Jonan was startled. Isn't this the Hui family from the Five Immortals? He immediately looked in the direction the mouse was pointing, leaving behind a grave warning. Long Pa said that this matter could not be delayed any longer. I need to go back and prepare quickly. Find Tian Laosi. With that, he turned and headed home. Jonan originally wanted to follow Long Pa home. They are not resurrected, nor are they undead. They are simply corpses that have the ability to move after death. They cause trouble everywhere. They endanger the lives of the living. Chindaji, standing nearby, asked in confusion, Granny, what does rising corpse mean? Is it the kind of zombie that jumps around like in TV dramas? Long Pa replied with a serious expression, it's called a reanimated corpse, also known as a walking corpse. Granny Long's face turned grim, and she said, Xiao Zhou, go inform every household. Starting today, no one is allowed to go out at night, until we've eliminated the threat. After saying this, he helped his mother, who was in tears, leave the gravesite. Seeing that the family had left, Director Zhou quickly asked Auntie Longpa, what should we do now? As soon as the words were spoken, Director Zhou quickly reassured the Tian family. You all go back and wait for the news. We'll notify you once the results are out. Tian Jigang, with a bitter expression, said, Director Zhou, our family's justice is in your hands, which means the dead body inside really disappeared. Hearing this, Aunt Long grabbed some dust from the ground and looked at it, then turned her head and nodded to Director Zhou, signaling that something dirty was indeed causing trouble. It's necessary for solving the case. Then he turned to Juman and said, Boss, did you hear that? I just threw a rock inside, but the sound that came back was wood. Rolling up his sleeves, he shouted, you brat, what are you doing? Chindaji quickly explained, Big brother, don't worry, I'm just checking what's inside the coffin. Chindaji, standing nearby, picked up a stone, and threw it into the large hole in the ground. With a loud thud, an echo came from inside the empty coffin. Tian Jigang was infuriated by this action. You finally arrived. My father's death is still unclear. Now even the graves are being dug up. You must bring justice for our family. Just as they were recounting this, won't even let you rest in peace. You must have ambition in the afterlife. Don't let him get away. Tian Jigang saw the crowd approaching, and quickly stepped forward to greet Director Zhou. I think something unclean has come out. Soon, everyone rushed to the graveyard. At this moment, Tian Laosi's wife was kneeling on the ground, wailing, Old man, you've had such a hard life. Which heartless bastard. This is really strange. Now I don't even know how to write my report. Granny Long was startled. She quickly said, Xiao Zhou, hurry, take me to the cemetery to check it out. There wasn't a single sign of digging in front of the grave. It was as if the person inside climbed out on their own. I led people to follow the footprints all the way. They stopped at Tian Laosi's door. The footprints just disappeared. It's not like now. Who would still put valuables in coffins anymore? Director Zhou sighed. It's strange, to say the least. There was a big hole in the coffin. The body inside was gone. Who has time to pick you up? I just received a report from the villagers. Tian Laoxi's grave has been dug up. Everyone rushed forward to ask about the situation. Chen Daji asked in confusion, who still digs up graves these days? I'll go prepare breakfast. When he heard it was Director Zhou coming, Chen Daji smiled and said, Uncle Zhou, did my boss ask you to come pick us up? Director Zhou scornfully replied, you little rascal. I came to mooch breakfast. Hearing this, Granny Long quickly came forward to greet him. Xiao Zhou, you're here. Why did you bring stuff with you? No need to be so polite with your aunt. Have a seat first. Seeing everyone's enthusiasm rise, Jonan cupped his fists and said, then I'll leave it to all of you, immortals. In the blink of an eye, it was morning. Director Zhou arrived with a bag of fruit to visit. Smiling, he said, Auntie, let's start by investigating the Tian family. I don't believe our martial arts master can't find this beast that has been meddling. Gray Lao Lu beside him echoed, that's right. In a moment, I will have my disciples turn the Tian family upside down. I don't believe we can't catch him. But these are all Mao Shan techniques. How could this appear in our northern country? After hearing this, he muttered, could it be that the wicked person who gave the idea to the Tian family back then, is Bai Wuwei from the Mao Shan sect? Hearing this, he snorted coldly. It should be just as the young master said. Tomorrow, he will personally take action to capture the monster. Then he'll leave it to you to deal with. At this moment, Grandma Ant picks up the chain at her feet. With a sigh, she says, the corpse-binding chain, the human skin lantern. The person behind this is really playing a big game. We only managed to grab these two things. As she spoke, Huang Wan'er took out a human skin lantern and a bundle of black chains. Young master, these two items were found in the haunted house's cellar. I'll give this to you as an explanation for now. I've also consulted the head of the family on this matter. At this, Jonan hurriedly stepped forward and asked, thank you all, immortals, for your hard work. How is the situation at the haunted house? But they stammered, saying, we didn't even catch a glimpse of the evil spirits. It seems they knew we were coming in advance. They packed up and fled before we arrived. Grandma likes you. Well, I guess I'll reluctantly take you as my disciple. Before the words were even finished, a beam of light descended from the sky. Chang Huayuan sensed that the royal sister and her group had returned. I'll head back to the room for a nap. These words reached Granny Ant's ears. He immediately burst into laughter. Not bad, you little rascal. He quickly got up and hid behind Jonan, muttering, old immortal, I didn't sleep well last night, and now I'm a bit sleepy. Let my boss chat with you for a while. He shouted, spare me, immortal. Seeing this, Grandma Ant laughed and replied, didn't you just want to be my disciple? Why are you having second thoughts now? When Chindaji heard this, you want to become my disciple? Then die first, we'll talk later. As soon as the words were spoken, a chilling aura surrounded Grandma Ant. The sight scared Chindaji so much that he fell to the ground. He flattered her with a smile, old immortal, my pure young body sounds really powerful. How about taking me as your disciple? Seeing his shameless expression, Grandma Ant chuckled and replied, you rascal. Its life is like a steel blade. This kind of constitution is immune to all evil, making it an excellent candidate for cultivating Taoist arts. After hearing this, Chindaji ran eagerly to Grandma Ant. Immediately, he said with a sneer, kid, it's not like I meant to peek. Old immortal, what exactly is a pure young body? Seeing his confusion, Chang Huayuan explained, the pure young body is born of the pure young sun. Its nature is like fierce fire. Stop hiding in there and peeking. Hurry up and come out. As soon as the words were spoken, Chindaji shook his head, and awkwardly walked out. They were already gone. As he stood there stunned, the old ant snorted coldly at the room, little brat. So it's a pure young body. No wonder he woke up so quickly. There was a loud boom, and the four immortals disappeared. Jiunan intended for them to plan before taking action, but they moved too fast. Before he could finish shouting, could this have been a trap set in advance? Just as he was pondering this, Grey Old Six's sharp voice interrupted him. The Long family head and Granny Ant are here overseeing things. We'll head to the back mountain to stand up for Mr. Xiao. As soon as the words were spoken, no wonder she uses such wicked tricks. After understanding the whole situation, he stroked his chin in thought. Flayed corpse, iron coffin, ugly female Taoist. Everything was intricately connected. Bai Wuwei heard this, and curiously asked why a Taoist would be jealous of someone else's wife. Hui Lao Lu Fu Er said it was obviously because that evil person is a particularly ugly female cultivator. Huang Wan'er exclaimed in surprise. He's actually a female Taoist. Then they put her in an iron coffin and tortured her to death. Although the second concubine had made mistakes first, their methods were far too cruel. I guess it's mostly because that evil person is feeling jealous. That's why they came up with such a bad idea. They screamed for 7 days and nights before dying. Upon hearing the terrible noise, the dog immediately thought of the Tian family ancestors who lived next door. Hui Laolu slowly smiled. He continued, saying that back then, the couple followed the words of the wicked man. They skinned the second concubine they brought from the opera house. I never thought they wouldn't settle down even after death. This comment prompted Chang Huayuan to chime in sarcastically. The iron coffin that Granny Ant destroyed 10 years ago was made by those two. But karma has its way. They died horribly back then. Their entire bodies rotted away. If I remember correctly, their surname should be Tian. Jiunan asked in confusion. There are quite a few people with the surname Tian in our village. Sister, which family are you referring to? At this moment, Hui Laolu interrupted, saying, those two were wicked people with bad intentions when they were alive. Jiunan smiled and returned. There's an older sister over there. You're too polite, young sir. This is what a sister should do. Speaking of which, the couple in that haunted house used to live in the same village as you, young sir. We have heard about the haunted house on the back mountain of the school. We have a way to deal with this matter. As she spoke, Huang Waner also stepped forward. The place where that ghost couple resides happens to be under the management of my Huang family. I will send someone to punish them later. He hadn't finished speaking. The aunt grandma next to me gritted her teeth and said that all the nearby towns, big and small, had been searched thoroughly. That beast seems to have disappeared into thin air. There are no clues at all, although there are no leads on Xiaoyu's case. And second, because we heard about your experience in the haunted house last night. Jiu felt a surge of joy upon hearing this. Grandma, does that mean you have a solution for both matters? In response, the repayment officer looked apologetic and said, I truly apologize, young sir. As for the other matter, there is still no clue. Ant said with a beaming smile. Everyone, let's stop with the polite talk, and get down to business. Then he said to Xiaojiu, we came this time, first for your sister Xiaoyu's matter. As long as you give me a call, I'll be there anytime. Jiunan hurriedly replied, Brother Hui, please don't be so polite. I'm just doing my part, the matter is settled now. They truly endured endless suffering in this world. Now, Ninth Master's genuine kindness towards Grey Sixth has deeply touched him. He clasped his hands and saluted. Just for those words of yours, sir. In the future, whether it's climbing a mountain of swords or crossing a sea of flames, feel free to bring them to me. I will always be available to help. Grey Sixth was deeply moved after hearing this. The Grey family was born despised by everyone, like lowly rats. No one was even willing to worship them as spirit guardians in the past. Treating an illness is no more than a small effort. It's not worth mentioning. With that, he turned around and said to Hui Laolu, Brother Hui, there's no need to be too formal. If a family member falls ill, you're absolutely right. Sensing the tense atmosphere, Junan hurriedly clasped his hands in salute. Ah, so there are 5 immortals present. I apologize for not greeting you sooner. In your situation, as I said, you guys give birth to so many little rats every year. How could my eldest grandson possibly heal them all? Hearing this, Hui Laolu awkwardly smiled and said, Grandma, and treated people well. He had never refused anyone's request. Just as he didn't know how to respond, Grandma Ant lifted the curtain, and stepped in to help by saying, Hui Laolu, I deserve to die. I'm not worthy of your treatment, sir. But I still wanted to join the fun. Nine Nan couldn't understand the hidden meaning behind Hui Laolu's words. He was kind-hearted. We also want to thank you, sir. Let them finish first. A sneaky-looking middle-aged man smiled, revealing his 2 front teeth. Sir, just call me Gray Number 6. My life is worthless. A woman in fur standing beside him spoke up, Young sir, I am Huang Hua of the Huang Xian family. I came here today to thank you for curing my son's illness. As soon as she finished speaking, a strong man standing behind shouted, I am Bai Wu Wei of the Bai Xian family. I am Hu Qingshan from the Hu Immortal clan. Not long ago, you helped heal my granddaughter's leg. After he fully recovers, I will personally bring him to treat the blood. After the elder finished speaking, how do you have time to come by? Chang Huayuan clasped his hands in salute, young master. The 5 Immortal clan is here to express our gratitude to you. Jiunan looked at everyone in surprise upon hearing this. Seeing this, an elder with a white beard was the first to speak, young sir. A pair of jade legs slowly walked toward him. The vivid sight made Jiunan blush. When he looked again, he saw Chang Huayuan entering the courtyard with 4 strange people. Jiunan hurriedly greeted warmly, Brother Chang. No need to rush, let me take care of this for you. After speaking, a cold wind swept by. Chen Daji's eyes immediately became unfocused. He collapsed into sleep. Jonan turned to look. This isn't for you to look at. Go back to sleep. But Chindaji was already completely entranced, ignoring Jonan's shouts. At that moment, a gentle female voice reached Jonan's ears. Young master, someone is watching us. Should I have the maid capture him for you? Jonan turned to take a look. Chindaji, looking like a total fool, muttered from behind, such a beautiful lady in red. Hearing this, Jonan hurried forward to block his view. Daji. Immediately, she hurriedly said, sisters. Please, rise quickly. Don't call me that in the future. The conversation isn't over yet. The leading female ghost moved her red lips and said, young master, grandma is here to see you. Then the chair gently landed on the ground. The female ghosts shouted in unison, we greet the young master. This kind of greeting made Jonan feel very awkward. A gust of eerie wind blew slowly. Jonan quickly got up and glanced at the sleeping Chindaji. Then he tiptoed out the door. Outside, a group of red-robed female ghosts floated by, carrying a sedan chair. Suddenly, Grandma Aunt's familiar voice came from inside the chair, my dear grandson. An evening came in the blink of an eye. Father Chen and Director Zhou returned to the scene together. At this moment, Jonan was lying on the bed, recalling last night's rescue in the haunted house. Just as he was about to sleep. Upon hearing this, Chen's father threw a punch and said, you little brat. Do I need to tell you this? Chindaji covered his face after being hit. He fell silent. Time flew by. That's how you can repay me. In response, Director Zhou behind him scolded, hurry up and put the money away. Old Lady Long is not one of those swindlers you know. Chindaji also chimed in, that's right. The old lady is a living Buddha with an ethereal presence. Here, you take this money first. I'll go back to the bank to withdraw the rest. Seeing this situation, Mrs. Rong immediately scolded, I'm only helping you for the sake of Daiji and Xiaojiu. You should do more good deeds in the future. Mr. Chen eagerly took the axe, thanking the old man repeatedly for his help. I will definitely take good care of this item. He immediately reached into his pocket. He pulled out a large stack of cash. Take it back and set up the altar. Place it properly. Worship it once every morning and evening. If you notice anything unusual, come to me immediately. Captain Zhou followed Fu He and said, Brother Chen has donated quite a bit of money to our county over the years. Please, help him out. Seeing this, Granny Long couldn't refuse. She turned and opened a cabinet. Then she picked up a sharp, gleaming axe and said, I've been worshipping this iron axe for decades. Chen, upon hearing this, immediately grabbed the elder and begged, please, elder, I'm an honest and upright businessman. If you don't believe me, ask Director Zhou. You must save me. Jian mentioned himself, and whispered, I've secretly kept a mistress outside. That's the only bad thing I've done, really. The elder, hearing this, sarcastically replied, that doesn't count. Although sneaking around behind your wife's back is bad karma, your current situation is far more serious than that. At worst, you can atone for it slowly in the future. Hearing this, Chen's father was startled, thinking about how he made the mistake every man in the world could make. He quietly pulled the elder aside. Impossible. Lies can't fool the spirits. Did you do something against your conscience? Jian and the other person kept arguing. Chindaji quickly stepped forward to persuade, Dad. If you really did something wrong, just admit it. Did you do something immoral or unjust? I quickly explained, I'm innocent. I've always lived an honest life. I haven't done anything bad. The old lady didn't believe a word I said. Unexpectedly, the 3 incense sticks on the altar broke simultaneously. Madame Chen was startled. She asked Lompa in confusion, has this box gotten damp? But the old lady shouted, tell me the truth. Then the incense ashes can be removed. After that, Lompa led Mr. Chen to the altar to offer incense. After lighting the incense sticks, Mr. Chen and his son put their hands together in prayer. They respectfully bowed. Hearing that Long Po's incense ash pouch can ward off blood, Chen's father immediately stepped forward and said, Long Grandma, can I also ask for an incense ash pouch? What's the harm in that? You can go inside and offer incense to the immortals. Captain Zhou proudly took out a sachet. If there really are ghosts, can't escape from Long Po's grasp either. Ever since I put on the incense ash pouch given by my mother-in-law, I'm no longer afraid to go to the crime scene. I've been plagued by a strange illness. In just a few days, I've wasted away beyond recognition. I went to the hospital, but they couldn't find anything wrong. At this point, Chindaji suddenly chimed in, could it be caused by the haunted house? Before he finished, who passed away? Grandma Long sighed and said it was you. Uncle Tianxi has died. He died a tragic death. I don't know what happened. Did something happen? It's okay, it's okay. I came back with Uncle Zhou and the others. After saying that, I asked about the funeral I just saw. Grandma, I saw the Tian family holding a funeral at the village entrance. Leading them was none other than Tian Jigang, the eldest son of the Tian family. Seeing this, the group didn't linger for long. After returning home, Grandma Long greeted them with a big smile. Xiao Jiu, why did you suddenly come back? Good idea, Uncle Zhou should know about these things. Soon, they all returned to the village. But as soon as they got out of the car, they ran into a funeral procession. Jiu Nan looked at the approaching group, and took a closer look. Jiu Nan, you're heading back to the village, right? Director Zhou has long wanted to visit your grandmother. Let's take her with us and head there together. We won't lose any time. Jiu Nan immediately replied. I only gave in because he beat me. Before he could finish, Chen's father interrupted. Nonsense. The man is skilled in both the arts and martial arts. Your half-baked skills are no better than a thug's. He finished with a smile, glancing at Jonan. He often says you're a good kid. Watch out, kid. Learn something good from Jonan. Stop thinking about fighting all the time. Chen Daji muttered under his breath, I can't beat the boss. He's way better at fighting than I am. Jonan responded in surprise. Uncle, you know me. Of course, Director Zhou often mentions you. Uncle Chen, you're talking about Captain Zhou Liming from the police station, right? That's right, that's right. Ask my dad. He's the top student in the entire county. You have to believe what he says. Chen Fuwen immediately asked with a smile. Young man, you're Jonan, right? Dad, I fell down. Do you think I'm an idiot? Who could fall like this? Seeing that the explanation was in vain, Chen Daji hurriedly pointed at Hua Jonan and said, you shouldn't doubt me, you little brat. I'm paying for you to study well. Why are you hanging out with others again? Getting into fights and ending up like this? Chen Daji argued. A portly middle-aged man shouted, you brat. Who are you going to blow up? Hearing this, Chen Daji's expression changed in shock. Dad, what are you doing here? As they spoke, a few of them got into the car. Chen Daji smiled ingratiatingly as he opened the car door. He invited Hua Jonan to take a seat. Boss, after I get back, I'll take a few dynamite sticks and blow up that ghost house's lair. As soon as he finished speaking, it's just that I opened a few mines. Being wealthy is just a trivial little advantage of mine. Just as Chen Daji was boasting, a long wheelbase, 5-ringed, Kaming car drove over. After last night's ghostly scene, Hua, standing by, said enviously, second brother. What does your family actually do? So rich. I see someone asking. Chen Daji casually said it was nothing. Chen Daji took out a big mobile phone from his pocket. He dialed a number and said in a commanding tone, hello. Hurry up and pick me up at the school gate. Don't give me so much nonsense. Come over now. It's indeed unsafe to leave those evil spirits in the back mountain. Then he turned to Tiger Boy and said, Tiger Boy, help me ask for a leave. I'll rush back to find Grandma for help. Seeing Jonan agree, he immediately grabbed Jonan's arm. This matter cannot just be brushed aside. Ask those beasts, Xianjia and Xiangfu, how much they want. I will cover the cost. Jonan thought for a moment. Did you forget? In response, Jonan carefully explained that this Taoist was the ghost who brought us back to school earlier. I think he must have been guarding this place for a long time. Chen Daji was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Boss, what did you say? Our school actually has a ghost. Chen Daji was so frightened that he fell to the ground. He anxiously asked, Big brother, who were you talking to? Wasn't there anyone just now? The tiger boy beside him mocked that his boss has yin-yang eyes. Jonan clasped her hands in salute. She bowed to the figure before her and said, Thank you, Taoist, for saving my life. The Taoist nodded in response. Then he turned into green smoke and vanished. Watching Jonan's inexplicable action, I hurriedly signaled everyone to follow me. Guided by the blue silhouette, everyone quickly ran to the school. Several people collapsed to the ground, sighing that they had finally left that hellish place. Just when he was at his wit's end, a blue light suddenly appeared ahead, and a shadow waved at him. A hoarse voice shouted for me to come over. The situation was urgent. There was no time to think. However, Chen Daji ignored it. He quickly pulled the two of them up and said less nonsense. I won't leave my brothers behind. Gio couldn't help but stare at the person-shaped lantern so close by. He tried hard to recall the route he had taken before. Just as he finished speaking, Hua tripped over a stone behind them. A human skin lantern was flying rapidly toward them from behind. Hua shouted desperately, Run, quickly. Don't worry, that lantern is about to catch up. Just as everyone was sprinting with all their might, a sudden mist appeared. Chen Daji asked in confusion, What's going on? Where did this fog come from? I can't even see the road. The creature was sent flying backward. A few people quickly ran out of the haunted house, but those two lanterns were relentlessly pursuing them from behind. Nan hurriedly reminded everyone to run. Don't let them catch up. But before he could ask how to deal with it, Nan, glowing with golden light, had a golden dragon circling everyone. Get the hell out of my way. As soon as the words were spoken, I shouted for everyone to stay close. That's how I ran all the way out of the courtyard. But just as I reached the entrance, that usually tame fiend was suddenly blocking the gate with a grin. Seeing this, Chindaji, who was running ahead, stopped in fear. He cursed, damn it, they're climbing up. Seeing this, Chindaji pulled out a lighter and set the clothes in his hand on fire. Then, waving the flames, he ran ahead, clearing the way from the bugs. After dealing with the ghost house, everyone packed up their companions and prepared to leave. But just as the door opened, the corpse bugs outside quickly rushed toward them. Hua broke into a cold sweat from shock. I found out my blood can scare ghosts. Chindaji gradually smiled and said, boss, just wait and see. As he spoke, he brought his fingers together and lightly tapped the ghost house. The corpses that were still moving immediately stiffened. The 2 corpses inside the coffin were lifted out. A dry corpse can move if it has a soul. Seeing this, Nan quickly said to Daji to put blood on their foreheads. Don't get it in your mouth. My head hurts so much. However, no one paid him any attention. At this moment, Nan was strenuously moving the coffin lid. He was directing Chindaji to come over and lift it together. With everyone's effort, Nan didn't explain much. He dipped his fingertip in Chindaji's blood. Then he pointed it between Hua and Zhang Shun's eyebrows. Before long, the 2 of them covered their heads and woke up. He asked in confusion, where are we? Chindaji heard this, and turned his head, puzzled, saying, boss, what is a pure young body? Is it very impressive? But this matter is quite serious in the coffin. Strange black smoke started to emerge from within. It seemed like something terrifying was about to come out. Meanwhile, Nan saw Chindaji driving away the vengeful spirit. He couldn't help but praise him, saying, Daji, you actually have a pure young body. Chindaji looked at the crying ghost on the ground in bewilderment. Damn, am I really this strong? As everyone was still in shock, the wailing ghost turned into a wisp of smoke and drifted back into the coffin. In an instant, the once still coffin began to shake violently. I'll fight you all. After saying that, Chindaji knocked down the male ghost ahead. Immediately, another slap landed on the face of another ghost. The second ghost was knocked to the ground. It let out a miserable wail. You bring someone back to save me. Saying that, he punched towards the door. A pair of fists covered in blood. He rushed straight towards the haunted house. Damn it. Jonan shoves Chindaji away, shouting, I'll keep them busy. You go now. But Chindaji blocks her way. Boss, you run first, I'll hold them off. Before my blood runs dry. He saw a completely different scene. 2 anxious souls are lounging comfortably in their chairs. Jonan rolls her eyes, and notices the other 2 people locked in coffins nearby. Seeing this, and here you are, hiding in this godforsaken place, smoking and fooling around. Chindaji said as he tried to move forward, but Jonan quickly stopped him, turning him away. Don't go, they've been possessed by something evil. With the help of Jonan's yin-yang vision, he suddenly shouted, Boss. Look, what is that? At this moment, Zhang Shun and Huzi were leaning on chairs, smoking opium. This scene made Chindaji furious, and he cursed, damn it, I've been looking for you all night. Before long, they arrived at the main hall. Chindaji, panting heavily, said, oh my god, we finally made it. I got goosebumps all over. Just as he was complaining, why are there so many bugs? Seeing the swarms of corpse-eating bugs, Nan immediately called Daji to move inside. The ground crunched beneath their feet as the bugs burst. Both of them held back their nausea as they stepped on the bugs and moved forward. Looking closely, the entire courtyard was filled with disgusting corpse bugs. The air was filled with the stench of rotting flesh. Chindaji covered his mouth and nose. With a disgusted expression, he complained. Seeing them remain silent, as if they hadn't noticed the strange behavior, he stood there dumbfounded, watching them. But just as they stepped into the courtyard, they noticed a few bugs crawling at their feet. Jonan quickly reassured him, don't be afraid. This is a dirty thing formed by the souls of grotesque animals attaching to a dead body. As long as we ignore it, they won't be able to do anything to us. After speaking, he pulled Chindaji and walked into the door. A monster with a ginseng mouse head showed them a saintly smile. Seeing this situation, Chindaji was so scared that he tightly gripped Jonan's arm. He trembled and said, Boss, what the hell is this thing? So I might as well bleed more. The awkwardly unattractive Nine said, when I was young, I changed my skin. No ghost can possess me. Just as the 2 were talking, a crack appeared in the main door of the house. Once it dries, won't protect you. It needs to be fresh to be effective. Hearing this, Chindaji punched himself in the face. As the blood flowed from his nose, he said cheekily, "Anyway, I've already disfigured myself." Chindaji firmly declared, "No matter how much dirt there is, I'm not afraid. This young master has blood for protection. It makes them dare not provoke me." Seeing Chindaji's increasingly arrogant face, Jionai helplessly retorted, "The blood on your face. Aren't those the ghost lanterns we saw earlier? Did you all fall into a ghost's lair?" In response, Jionan was also shocked by the scene before him, sweating profusely. "Tiger Boy and the others are probably inside here. We have to go in and rescue them." After passing through the cave, they found an ancient, rustic house outside. The human skin lanterns that had disappeared earlier were hung on either side of the main gate. Seeing this situation, Chindaji quickly asked the boss. The silent cave echoed with the sound of water droplets. Chindaji, frightened, stayed close behind Jionan. After walking for a while, they gradually saw an opening glowing with light ahead. The two quickened their pace and stepped out. "Shall we go in and take a look?" At this moment, there was no other way but to move forward. Hua Jun replied after a long pause, "All right. Daji, stay close to me." After giving instructions, they headed towards the cave. They couldn't climb up without tools. "We still need to find another way out." As soon as he finished speaking, Chindaji pointed to the dark opening beside him and shouted, "Boss, there's a path here." He had smeared his face with blood. He grinned and said to Jionan, "Boss, quick, take a look. Is it evenly spread on my face?" However, Jionan's gaze was fixed on the opening where they had fallen. At their current height, Jionan awkwardly scratched his head and said, "No worries, no worries. Your blood is full of yang energy. It can effectively keep bad spirits away." Chindaji immediately waved his hands, rubbing his face. When he turned around again, Chindaji instead asked the boss, "Did my face get messed up? There's so much blood on it. This young master makes a living with his face, you know." Looking at Chindaji's head, swollen like a pig's, Hua Jionan glanced down. He saw Chindaji, bruised and battered, complaining. Hua Jionan quickly got up. He kept apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, but..." Just as he was astonished, a faint voice came from beneath him. "Of course, you're not in pain. Boss, you sat on my head. How could you feel any pain?" Jionan fell into a bottomless pit. With a loud thud, dust rose all around. Hua Jionan blinked in confusion, wondering why it didn't hurt at all. "Could it be that I have already left this world?" and ran off following the lantern. Hua Jionan and Daqing quickly chased after him. Chindaji's daughter shouted for him to stop, but he had already run a few steps away. The ground suddenly caved in beneath his feet, warning the high priest beside her not to breathe. But at this moment, Chindaji's eyes glowed green. It was clear that he was bewitched by evil spirits. So Jionan tried to wake him up. Chindaji started walking. But at that moment, eerie wailing sounds arose from all around. Hua Jionan looked up in terror. In the distance, two ghostly green human skin lanterns floated in the air, and they gave off the stench of rotting flesh. Jionan quickly covered her mouth and nose. "These two young ones probably don't need my help." At this moment, Jionan, who had rushed deep into the back mountain, stopped in his tracks. Chindaji, who was catching up from behind, panted and said, "Boss, why did the footprints stop here? Could Hua and the others be hiding in the trees to scare us? You'd better not meddle too much. That person is quite dangerous. We can't afford to offend these spirits." Then the elder at the front smiled and replied not to worry. There is a fate predetermined in the darkness. Now two more are in trouble. It's a pity they're so young, yet doomed to die early. Taoist, can you help them? Before she could finish, an old ghost with a cane immediately stepped forward to stop the Taoist. A head in the distance was quietly observing. Then, hundreds of ghostly green spirits floated up from the ground. They watched anxiously in the direction where Jionan left. One of the women said worriedly, "The human skin lantern just took 4 people." Jionan seemed to have thought of something. Immediately, she vaulted over the wall. "Daji, come quickly. Something must have happened to Hua and the others." Seeing the two run off. Seeing this situation, Jionan fell into deep thought. Beside him, Chindaji was puzzled, saying there's no way here. Could it be that they ran to the chaotic graveyard on the back mountain? Before they could finish speaking, worried, "Do you think they're okay?" Immediately hurried outside to search. The moonlight outside was bright. The playground was empty. The two followed the footprints to a wall. Seeing he hadn't woken up, Hua Jio raised his arm and slapped him. They went to dig up some bones. It's this late, and they still haven't come back. Chindaji quickly got up upon hearing this. He quickly shook the soundly sleeping Chindaji beside him awake. "Wake up. Huzi and the others haven't come back yet." But Chindaji responded nonchalantly. They probably ate too much. Squatting in the bathroom. The clock on the wall had already struck midnight. The four who went out to dig up the bones hadn't returned yet. At this moment, day and night were shifting. It was the exact time for the haunted house to stir. Hua Junan felt a jolt of fear. Nothing happened when I kicked the skull back then. At worst, I'll just burn more paper money later. Before long, the two fell asleep. The moonlight shone. Hua Jiu jerked awake from a nightmare. But he saw the four of them walk out arm in arm. It looked like things were about to get out of hand. Hua Jiu stood up, ready to chase after him. But Chindaji suddenly grabbed him. He mumbled, "Don't worry about it. Let's go dig up bones in the playground. Whoever digs up the most, gets this spot." Hua Junan listened to their plan in a daze, just about to speak up and stop them. Seeing how things were getting out of hand, Chindaji, in a moment of excitement, suddenly thought of a plan. "Since you all want to be the third one, how about we see who's braver?" They went along and said, "If you want to be second, then you can be second." Chindaji, who had just been recognized, blushed and said, "Then who's going to be the third one?" Hearing this, the other four immediately pointed at themselves. They argued endlessly over who should be the third. The argument got more and more heated. Everyone raised their glasses and shouted, "I agree." Then, Chindaji volunteered, raising his hand and saying, "Jonan has skills, he should be the eldest brother. I have money, I want to be the second brother." Everyone knew Chindaji's family was wealthy landowners. So to gain his favor, Chindaji raised his glass and stood up. "I'm the eldest, but Jonan is good at studying, and skilled in martial arts. I believe Jonan should be the big brother. Anyone has objections?" Upon hearing this, Du Zhong was drinking so much that his face turned red. A slightly tipsy Chindaji suddenly mentioned that fate had brought us together. We should become sworn brothers. The few of them, a bit confused from drinking, nodded in agreement. Seeing that everyone agreed, everyone immediately took out their cups and gathered together. Following the adult's example, a sip of strong liquor, a bite of peanuts, with a few cups of baijiu down. Just this once, today. The other roommates chimed in as well. Seeing everyone so enthusiastic, Hua Junan had no choice but to agree. After Junan joined, "After you wake up, you can go straight home." Hua Jiu was about to decline after hearing this. But before he could say anything, Chindaji handed a cup to him and said, "Brother Jiu, I'm begging you, have a drink with me." Smelling the aroma, the classmates gathered around. Hua asked in confusion, "Where did you get this from?" Chindaji, full of pride, said, "Of course, I have my connections. Tonight, let's drink to our heart's content, brothers. Tomorrow is Saturday, no classes. I haven't done anything bad. Look at this, isn't it something great?" After saying that, he took out a cup, and poured some liquid from the pot. Immediately, the fragrance of wine filled the air. "Have you done something bad again? Be careful or the ghosts from the haunted house the other day might come after you." Chindaji was so frightened that he broke into a cold sweat. But with a mischievous grin, he put his arm around Jonan's shoulder and said, "Big brother, don't scare me like that." Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already Friday. Chindaji ran into the dormitory, looking around with a kettle in hand. Seeing him like this, Hua Jonan suspiciously asked, "What are you up to sneaking around?" The moon fairy thought of arriving with the light. As the last verse of the scripture ended, the sun slowly rose. The ghostly aura dissipated. The Taoist master, having finished everything, sank back into the ground. The old man remained silent at the words. He simply formed a hand seal, and began chanting a sutra to appease the spirits. The myriad immortals gather, forming one. Thus, the Rice King proclaimed the good emperor's new song. Might be quite significant. As soon as I finished speaking, the dim playground was immediately filled with discussions about the haunted house. "Taoist, what do you mean by this? Could it be that those two kids can help us reincarnate? The underworld still won't take me. How long do I have to endure this life?" Just when these sounds become incessant, a soul slowly drifts out after everyone leaves. Please remain calm. I can see that today's visitor. After we left, we heard all sorts of noises from the playground. What was that just now? It was pressing on me, making me feel so uncomfortable. It's been dead for decades. This time, I'm done for. I feel that this lord will definitely never forgive me. Seeing his unstable emotions, I softly reassured him that it's okay. We'll go back later, burn incense, and apologize to him. Chindaji fell flat on his face. The skull he was holding was also crushed into pieces. Chindaji stared blankly at the fragments in a daze. I quickly stepped forward and pulled him up. But with a sob, he cried out, "Brother, it's this guy. I remember it clearly." When he ran toward the big pit, his carelessness caused him to trip over a rock. There was a loud thud. I quickly found the earring on the playground. Then I told Chindaji, who was still fumbling around nearby, that he could go back because I had already found the item. And that fool Chindaji was holding a skull, laughing. He replied, "Bro. I found something too. The main thing is to apologize to that skull from earlier, so it can rest in peace." At that, I could only respond, "I give up. Hurry up and follow. By the moonlight. If it weren't for me causing trouble, you wouldn't have lost your earring." I turned around and said, "No need. I can go alone." But behind me, Chindaji awkwardly said, "I'll just go with you since it's on my way." I noticed the earring I was wearing was gone. I quickly got up, planning to head to the playground where we fought earlier to search for it. Chindaji felt guilty. "Big brother. I'll go with you." Hearing this, Chindaji was taken aback. He quickly shook me and urgently shouted, "Brother. What should we do?" At that moment, I couldn't take in what Chindaji was saying at all. Just as he started shaking. "Should I burn some paper money for him? Can this be resolved?" I was amused by what he said. How could this dirty thing ask for money? What it usually wants is your life. Suffering lay on the bed with a look of utter disinterest. Next to him, Chindaji incessantly asked, "Brother, do you think the skull I kicked during the day will come to find me at night? What if it seeks revenge on me?" Kicked the skull away. He scoffed and said, "What's there to be afraid of? Such disrespectful behavior." I'm completely speechless. In the blink of an eye, it was late at night. Chindaji then discovered a white, gleaming skull in the pit. The students watching nearby gasped, saying they had heard this place used to be a mass grave. They didn't expect it to be true. Seeing how scared the two girls were, Chindaji, trying to show off, "I'm speechless. It's because you're too heavy. Hurry and get up." After Chindaji stood up, still unwilling, he pointed at the hole in the ground. "It's not because I'm heavy. You definitely used internal force." Before he could finish speaking, seeing me refuse, Chindaji clung to my leg, unwilling to let go. "Big brother. Don't lie to me. Just now, you easily pinned me to the ground, and made such a big hole." Chindaji, however, said with admiration, "I've never seen such amazing kung fu in my life. From today on, you're my big brother." Hearing this, I waved my hand awkwardly and said, "No need. I'm not really skilled in kung fu," and wanted to fight again. I saw Chindaji kneeling on both knees, shouting loudly, "Big brother, please accept this bow from your little brother." That move left me stunned on the spot. Seeing this situation, "I won't hold it against you anymore." But when I turned to leave, he called out to me, "Big brother, wait a minute." Just when I thought he was still unconvinced. Then, with a grappling move, he lifted Chan Honam like a chick. Immediately after, he slammed him hard to the ground. Realizing his arm was dislocated, Chan Honam hurriedly begged, "Brother, I know I was wrong. I won't dare do it again." I countered by turning palm into fist. Tai Chi gives birth to yin and yang. Softness within strength. It looked like a soft palm strike, but the real power was hidden in the palm. In order to end this battle quickly, I swiftly moved behind him. Chen Haonan saw me appear behind him. And instantly, power led to a miracle. He swung his fist backward. Ah, wise 18 moves. Crow riding the plane, tornado destroys the parking lot. These moves were all bizarre. But they're just fancy tricks. I dodged them all with ease. But we also cannot be bullied. I come back to my senses. I dodged it in a flash. Seeing his punch miss, Chan Honam quickly followed up with a sweeping kick. As I watched the fist slowly descend, my mind recalls the image of old man Chen teaching me martial arts. Martial arts must be learned. As Chinese men, we should strive for self-improvement. We do not bully others. So I left. Chen Haonan grabbed my clothes tightly. Then he raised his fist, ready to hit me, while mocking, "With a weakling like you. I hit him every time I see him." I ignored the verbal mockery, but I disagreed. I thought it was better to avoid trouble. I casually asked, "Are you done? I have things to do." I quickly apologized, saying sorry, but the man in front of me saw me as an easy target. He immediately taunted, "You're the one who got first place in the county but is still a loser, right? Doesn't look like anything special to me. Can't understand why those girls are so enthusiastic about you. I'm really worried about her. If it weren't for her insisting I study, I wouldn't have come to report today." Immersed in my emotions, I didn't even notice the passerby in front of me. With a sudden thud, Tiger saw that I looked downcast. He quickly asked, "Brother Joe, what's wrong? Are you upset? Ever since Grandpa passed away, Grandma has been devastated." At that moment, Hawazi looked at the class rankings, excitedly shouting, "Joga, look, your score is ranked first." Then, with a proud face, he introduced me to the classmates nearby, saying, "This is my brother, he's ranked first in the whole county." But I interrupted him, "Let's go back to class," and reminded me to study hard. She told me not to worry about things at home. After I responded, I went to school with Hawazi to report in. Since the school wasn't very big, the new students were divided into 2 classes. After comforting him, I took care of all the funeral arrangements for him. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the first day of school. Grandma helped me prepare my clothes. I was immersed in it all. The next morning, Longpa began to arrange the funeral for Chi-Chen, but he was overwhelmed with grief. My body was already exhausted. White impermanence's words echoed in my mind. What exactly happened to my ancestors? Who am I really? What is the mystery of this birth? I gazed at the sky in confusion. With that, they prepared to leave. Old Chen stood at attention and gave me a crisp military salute. Then, together with black and white impermanence, he turned into a wisp of smoke and drifted into the sky. I watched as they gradually disappeared. I stood there, dumbfounded, and gained some clarity. Then, I bowed to the 2 spirits and thanked them for pointing the way. But black and white impermanence quickly dodged and said, "No need to thank us. If one day you can unlock the mystery of the Taizhong, just remember the goodwill of this day. The fate and spirit of your sister, Wang Qianyue, were devoured by an evil force at birth. If you don't eliminate her, that girl definitely won't live past 18. I was astonished by this. I calculated the time. Old Chen was about to turn his head to respond, but Bai Wuchang quickly stopped him. Then he turned back to me and said, "Young man, Mr. Bai here. In consideration of your ancestors' merits, I'll give you a piece of advice. Watch your step ahead. Do not look back at Grandpa who is about to leave me." Tears flowed uncontrollably down my face. "Grandpa, I will take good care of Grandma. Don't worry." After saying this, he clasped his fists and said to the messengers of death, "Thank you both for your trouble. Let's be on our way." The 2 ghosts bent down to return the greeting. The white messenger of death shouted, "The time has come. There are no inns on the road to the Yellow Springs." Before departing, he instructed, "Little Jiu, after your grandpa leaves, you and Xiaoye must be good siblings and show respect to Longpu. Don't make him angry. You must listen to him." He exclaimed in surprise, "So black and white impermanence are real after all. Then I will trouble you 2 to take me on this journey." Upon hearing this, the black and white impermanence respectfully said, "The old general is a person of great virtue. It is our honor to greet you. It is also a blessing for the 2 of us brothers. I am Xia Bian, here by the order of the King of Hell. We've come to escort the old general." As soon as they finished speaking, a soul drifted out from old Chen's body. Upon seeing this, after a while, 2 figures appeared outside the window, as a black and a white shadow slowly approached. As I approached them, I realized they were none other than black and white impermanence, the guides of souls from the underworld. The 2 ghosts entered the room and shouted in unison, "I am Fan Wujio." Falling backwards, I saw Grandpa's eyes tightly closed. He had lost his breath. I cried my heart out. I tried to wake him with my voice. "Someone dares to bully us common folk, old man. I'll fight them with this broadsword." After speaking, old man Chen felt a weight lifted off his shoulders, and started laughing heartily. Then he suddenly lost consciousness. "Grandpa doesn't have much to give you, but I'll leave these medals with you as a keepsake." He immediately grabbed the broadsword beside him. With a sharp glint in his eyes, he said, "Take this white chop knife, grandfather." If in the underworld, as the opera played, old Chen became immersed in it, recalling everything from the past. After the song ended, he took out his most precious merit medals and handed them to me. "Little Jior, could it be a final burst of vitality?" As the tobacco lit up, old Chen took a deep drag of his dry tobacco. Then, he turned on the radio. He listened to the song that described the anti-Japanese war from Shajia Bang. "Don't be sad. I've long been waiting to reunite with my old comrades." After speaking, he forced himself to sit up. "Xiao Jiu, go quickly and bring me my tobacco pipe." Seeing this situation, I thought to myself, Grandpa suddenly seems so energized. Meanwhile, I was crying with tears streaming down my face. Tightly gripping old Chen's hand, I said, "Grandpa, I don't want you to die. There must still be a way to cure you." But old Chen just smiled and said, "Silly child." But old man Chen's current condition is not optimistic. At this moment, old man Chen is using a hoarse voice to comfort little Jior not to cry. "A real man bleeds, but doesn't cry. Seeing you grow up is already enough for me. Our family has learned that old man Chen is critically ill. He asked me to send you a message. If the young master needs any herbs, feel free to let us know." Longpa thanked him hurriedly after hearing this. They continued searching around. Only the green snake remained, staying in place. Seeing this, Longpa asked in confusion, "Why haven't you left yet?" The green snake's words brought tears to Longpa's eyes. Granny Long quickly encouraged them, "Keep searching, everyone." But Granny Ant had already set up a formation to seal off the area. "I believe we will find him soon." After Longpa finished speaking, The other small animals gradually left. She then asked, "You've been investigating for days. Any clues about the haunted house?" Green Snake hesitated for a while, and said they had found nothing, seeing that they seemed to be losing confidence. Hearing the commotion, the old woman rushed to support him. Laughing, she scolded, "Why are you scaring them?" Upon hearing this, Nah, the Green Snake, hissed and said, "He's just too timid. I can't help it." At this, Granny Long had no way to refute. Passers-by were so frightened they ran for their lives, fleeing in panic. But the strange things didn't stop there. The wandering animals were speaking human language in grey voices, terrifying the onlooking youth, who fainted on the spot. It would take everyone's combined efforts to find this ghost. In the days that followed, ghostly lights floated around the outskirts of the village. Centered on the village, small animals within a 100-mile radius became extremely active. After being forgiven by the elder, the weasel spirit turned and asked, "Grandfather Who? Where is the haunted house hiding now?" The dragon lady chimed in, "Please, Grandfather Who, show us the way." However, this female ghost is extremely sinister. Even he couldn't pinpoint its exact location. The Huang spirit knew it was in the wrong. It hurriedly cupped its hands and apologized, "Elder Ant, I have offended you earlier. Please forgive me." In response, Elder Ant snorted coldly, "Humph. Don't let it happen again." Seeing the crowd calm down, Lord Husan continued, saying that the haunted house is at fault now. Everyone must not act impulsively. Old grievances should be set aside. We should work together to capture the real culprit. The one who killed the young weasel and attacked Longpa's granddaughter Wang Xiaoya is the same person. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone is shocked. No one expected that it was another ghost causing the trouble. The weasel, upon regaining his senses, immediately roared, "It was you who harmed my child." Grandma Ant wasn't intimidated and retorted, "Master Husan, you can't just accuse people without proof." Just as the weasel was about to strike, Master Husan from inside the cave immediately commanded, "Stop. This involves not only the 5 immortals, but also concerns the dragon lady and the ant granny." Upon hearing this, everyone revealed expressions of surprise. Longpa looked utterly confused. Longpa just finished speaking. Chang Huayuan was seen bowing low in submission. The immortals beside him also knelt down. They shouted aloud, asking Grand Duke Hu to make a judgment. Before long, a voice echoed from deep within the cave, "I am aware of the matter. Focusing on reforming Minky's crimes." Since then, the third lord who became the leader of all spirit mediums in the world. As long as the third lord who can clear elder sister Mai's name, then the truth will be fully revealed. A golden light enveloped him, and the deep voice of the Jade Emperor echoed from above, as fortune descended upon him with heavenly merit. Then, Ear was appointed as the leader of all demons in Changbai Mountain, ruling over 10,000 demons. With the utmost devotion to heaven's will, he vowed to use all his strength to redeem all the demons, and cultivate the righteous path, to manifest heaven's virtue of mercy. As soon as the words were spoken, however, the God of Thunder follows the Emperor's decree, and cannot act on his own. He insists on exterminating all demons. Seeing that her plea is in vain, Lady Husan sacrifices herself to save them, was enraged and commanded the Thunder Gods to lead the heavenly soldiers to Mount Changbai, facing the decisive and ruthless God of Thunder. Lady Husan offers herself willingly, to plead for the lives of all beings. He is a true man of justice. It is said that during the Shang dynasty, many spiritual animals cultivated into spirits, causing chaos in the region. The Jade Emperor, who governs the 6 realms. I curiously asked Granny Long, "Who is Grandfather Husan?" After hearing that, Granny Long said seriously, "Grandfather Husan is the leader of all spirit mediums in the world. It is said that he has cultivated the righteous path for over 5,000 years. He has spent his life accumulating virtue and doing good deeds. Humbly request Master Husan to make a fair judgment." As soon as these words were spoken, all the demons immediately stopped their clamor. The weasel confidently believed that Grandfather Husan would side with him. Seeing this situation, the weasel immediately shouted angrily, "As the boss and one of the 5 immortals, how can he stand with the ant grandma and aid her in wrongdoing?" To this, Chang Huayuan paid no mind. He then bent down and respectfully called into the cave, "Chang." Chang Huayuan immediately reassured us, "Don't worry, both of you. I have a way to resolve this matter." Then, he led us deep into the mountains. Not long after, the figures of the other 4 immortals appeared ahead. Seeing us approach, I immediately pleaded, asking Brother Chang to help clear my grandmother's name. I don't want her to be falsely accused of being a murderer. After hearing this, Grandma Ant gently patted my head with a look of relief, saying, "Xiaojiu, you're so sensible. Grandma didn't love you in vain." After hearing my words, "That is an old woman's privilege. Ba Yi, who was watching on the side, chuckled and said, if this gets out, you, Madam Long, will be the top spiritual leader in the north. But I don't care about these titles and accolades. Right now, dealing with the revenge of the 5 immortals is the top priority. If there's ever a need in the future, I will definitely do my best to help. Then he turned to the elder lady and said, I kindly ask Madam Long to help Yun establish a spiritual altar. It will make it easier for our families to connect in the future. The elder lady immediately clasped her hands and responded, it is an honor for the Chang family head to set up an altar at my home. Why would I be stingy with something like this? 8th Master was moved to tears. He stammered, Xiao Jior, you are truly wonderful. I am deeply grateful to you, young master. Seeing his refusal, I decided to give Uncle Ba some face. Healing the sick and saving lives is of utmost importance. Besides, you're Uncle Ba's elder brother. Herbs are just external things. Now, I'm giving them all to you. Go heal your wounds. Chang Huayuan quickly waved his hand to refuse the young lord. You've already helped me a great deal. I can't accept this. I was holding a box of Radiant Suzuki. Brother Chang, you can take these and use them. Looking at the dazzling herbs inside the box, Chang Huayuan was so shocked that he gaped and stammered, this is the Jiuchu old ginseng and 100-year-old wood Ganoderma. I smiled and said, they were all given to me by Uncle Schwescher. Looking at the prescription in my hand, I recalled that snow was a gift from the general. Then I turned and ran into the house. Everyone was left dumbfounded by my actions. When I came out again, he then bent down, saluted, and said he was Huayuan Mei. Such luck has been wasted. The young master's extraordinary medical skills. Seeing this situation, I hurriedly helped him up. Thought to himself, he won't be able to find these herbs at all. So he immediately asked, can these herbs be substituted with others? Without a great fortune, these rare herbs are almost impossible to come across in 1,000 years. Even if you're lucky enough to find one, it would still be in vain. You are like Hua Tuo reborn. Hearing this, I awkwardly scratched my head and said, Big brother, you're exaggerating. Now the blood stasis in your body has cleared. I'll prescribe another remedy to help you recover. The aged Jiu Su Renmian, Heshu, and the 100-year-old Mu Lingji. Chang Huayuan, upon seeing the ingredients written on the prescription, how are you? Are you okay? But Chang Huayuan, who was barely holding on, laughed loudly. This damn root of the illness is finally gone. Then, clasping his hands in thanks, he said, young master, your medical skills are extraordinary. After a short while, he spat out fresh blood. He screamed in agony. Elder Ba, who was watching nearby, hurriedly stepped forward to support him. He asked with concern, Big brother, this is the 5 elements nourishing method in traditional Chinese acupuncture. As I pierced the acupuncture points with the golden needles, Chang Huayuan gritted his teeth tightly. He gently embraced his whole body. The power of thunder surged forth. I will do my utmost to heal you. The scene shifts. At this moment, Chang Huayuan had his eyes tightly closed. He was lying in the position of the Fuxi star. The dragon ceiling and the fiery fish represent the yang. They stand tall and proud. But now, with my injuries, I will never be able to transform into a dragon and ascend. The life of the young master is now in your hands. I replied solemnly. The risk is too great. Let's leave it at that. Don't take any chances. But Chang Huayuan has already made up his mind. For generations, their Diling Xian family has transformed serpents into dragons. But during the needle insertion process, if the thunder fire surges into your heart meridian, it will instantly be in vain. You will die, and your path will end. The 8th master, upon hearing this, immediately interrupted, eldest brother. There is a way, but during the treatment, your life may be at risk. I will insert a gold needle into your dantian, to draw out the thunderous power within you. Then, with the right herbal adjustments, you can recover. Chang Huayuan's pupils dilated. Everything hit the mark. Excited, he hurriedly asked me for a cure. But the method I mentioned made his face turn pale. Cold sweat pouring down. I raised my hand and performed the traditional Chinese diagnostic methods. The energy is stagnated and has bruises. There is venous obstruction and the pulse is chaotic. There is a buildup of thunderous energy in the body. Diagnosed word by word. But I was severely injured by the 9 heavens divine thunder. Later, he visited many renowned doctors but was not cured. After he finished speaking, he looked at me with hopeful eyes. Young man, do you have a way to treat this? I did not respond. He even helped deliver babies. You can have him take a look at your condition. Chang Huayuan then spoke about the cause of his illness. I got this illness during a tribulation a century ago. At that time, I was transitioning from a flood dragon to a prison dragon. Your heart and lungs must have been seriously injured, right? Before I could finish speaking, 8th master beside us chuckled and called out, Boss, Xiao Jiu is really amazing. He cured the plague that afflicted the whole town when he was just 5. Grandma will go with you. She might have been taken aback by Grandma's words. Chang Huayuan was standing by, coughing repeatedly. Seeing this, I immediately stepped forward to steady him. Then I curiously asked, Brother Chang. Grandma snorted coldly. Don't think I can't see that you were intimidated by Elder Song and General Shui, which is why you resorted to this desperate measure. But considering your intentions, why don't you come with me, and let's clarify things. No matter the outcome, Huiyuan will definitely send you back safely. Upon hearing this, there is still room to resolve this now. Chang Mao has come here this time to mediate the conflict between both sides. I still have some small influence with the 5 immortals. How about this, grandmother? Who really holds the power here? Seeing the strange aura surrounding Granny Mai, Chang Huai quickly reassured her, Granny, please don't be anxious. It's better to resolve conflicts than to let them fester. Chang Huayuan explained, the Huang family has indeed misunderstood you, but now he has joined forces with the 5 great masters to prepare to attack Mai Mountain together. They want you to pay in blood for your debts. Granny Wenyan showed a stern expression and said, let them see. Chang family's eldest, I didn't harm that little yellow fox, but if they want a fight, Grandma here is ready to go all the way. Seeing this situation, if she really did it, why would she go and cause trouble with the Huang family? As soon as she finished speaking, Grandma Ant floated down slowly with ghostly cries. Laughing, she said, it's still the eldest sister who understands me, with the ability to call the wind and summon the rain. It would be disastrous if he sides with the royal family. At this thought, Madame Long immediately smiled and replied, Master Tang, I know my old sister's temper well. She is bold and takes responsibility. The only spirit with such power is Granny Ant. Upon hearing this, Granny Lung was shocked. Could he be here to settle accounts? The leader of the earth spirits, with profound skills, and awkwardly cleared his throat, saying, Master Song is here. How dare this kid take a seat? We came here today to inform you that the Huang family's child was indeed harmed by the haunted house. And around here, please take a seat, earlier. Thanks to the dragon skin donated by Master Ba, it saved this grandson's life. The Chang family is indeed our great benefactor. Meanwhile, Chang Huayuan noticed the pine tree in the courtyard. You did a great job. Hearing this, 8th Lord stood there, utterly confused. Just when the situation got awkward, Grandma Long came over with a stool. The head of the Chang family called out. When he looked at me again, staring at my earlobe without blinking, feeling creeped out, I immediately said, this is a silver earring given to me by Uncle Snow Lion. As soon as I finished speaking, Chang Huayuan patted 8th Lord on the back with a smile, Old 8. The Chang Hui monkey beside him interrupted. Then a pair of sharp eyes swept over me. He immediately asked, Old 8, how does this young master have a scab dragon body? Upon hearing this, Master 8 looked like a child who had done something wrong and dared not speak. With an otherworldly demeanor and lofty spirit, how can he possibly be related to you, Master Ba? Hearing this, Master Ba angrily shouted, you little brat. What do you mean? Just when he was talking non-stop, the big brother is wild. After saying that, Master Ba chuckled. He pointed to a distinguished-looking man. I scratched my head. With a puzzled expression, I complained, your big brother. I couldn't help but mock in my heart, does 8th Lord really have such power? As if sensing something from afar, Tang Bei slowly walked towards me. You brat, who do you think you're looking down on? This time, it was me who stepped in. Everything was resolved, and I asked about the doubts in my heart. Did Grandma Huang's spirit issue get resolved? When Yan Longpo smiled and replied, other spirits intervened and settled the conflict. Spirits? I recalled the sleazy figure of 8th Lord in my mind, and grind your bones to dust. Then, with a flash, the figure followed. Grandma held the younger sister, comforting her softly. It's okay, dear, Grandma is here. The younger sister was crying uncontrollably in fear. Grandma Long and the ghostly man arrived together. Grandma immediately goes to guard the livestock. Seeing this situation, the female ghost immediately turns into a wisp of blue smoke and disappears. Ant is so furious that she exclaims, what kind of ghost dares to bully my nephew? I will dig 3 feet into the ground. I grabbed my sister and fled out the door. The female ghost remains relentless. She roars angrily. The ghostly hand reaches for my sister's back. At that moment, the female ghost fell to her knees, screaming in pain, hands gone. I turned pale, and hurriedly thanked the old pine outside the courtyard for its help. Taking advantage of this moment, then I pulled her back with me. The female ghost sneered coldly at the sight. She raised her ghostly hand and attacked us. Just as she was about to touch my sister, a golden light struck her, sending her flying. A strange laughter echoed through the house. Seeing this situation, my little sister clung tightly to the hem of my shirt in fear. At that moment, neither grandma nor our maternal grandmother was home. I gently comforted my sister, telling her not to be scared. Shielding my sister behind me, in the pitch-black night, there was complete silence outside. Just when I thought I was seeing things, a vague shadow slowly emerged through the wall. At that moment, my sister was bringing me a bowl of medicine, but I saw a dark figure slowly approaching outside the window. This eerie scene made me panic deep inside. I quickly shouted, "Who's outside?" Then I jumped out of bed. A wisp of green smoke rose. Ba Yi transformed into a green snake. He hissed, "Wait here for a moment. I'll be right back." However, inside the room, I had no idea what was happening outside. Old Lady Long hurriedly shouted, "Ba Yi, stop teasing me. If you have any ideas, just say them quickly. I'll give you whatever benefits you want, old lady." Ba Yi grinned slyly and said, "You said it yourself." Seeing this situation, the old lady Long was in a panic, sweating profusely. She kept muttering, "What should I do?" Meanwhile, Ba Yi was teasing her. "Unless it's classical Chinese. Something's off about this." But the two elders didn't buy it. "Young lady, just watch the show. No need to intervene." "Old woman, this matter has nothing to do with your family of shamans." Eighth Master, holding his swollen cheek, said aggrievedly, "I told you I couldn't stop him. Dragon Granny, you insisted on having me intervene." As soon as he finished speaking, the old woman hurriedly rushed over to the two. "Stop fighting for now." The two elders teamed up, and sent him flying with a slap. He shouted, "Who do you think you are?" The scene became awkward. He completely embarrassed the Lingxian family. But just then, Elder Earth Spirit, Ba Yi, quickly inserted himself between both sides. He shouted, "Stop fighting. Cease at once." Unexpectedly, the next second, dust filled the air. The weasel dodged the attack with its agile movements. He immediately ordered the Yellow Skin Army in the rear to launch an attack. "Let's go. Our yellow immortal family isn't so easy to bully. A great battle is about to break out. To nourish my nephew." As he spoke, a sinister aura surrounded his hand. A giant ghostly hand reached out to grab the weasel spirit. With a loud boom, the ground shattered, sending debris flying. With no explanation accepted, the foreigner spread his hands. With a bitter expression, he said, "Since you insist on biting at me, I might as well sit back and take the blame. I'll skin you all alive. You shouldn't have taken his life." The foreigner snorted coldly, "I didn't kill him." At this moment, the weasel, immersed in the pain of losing his son, could not hear the explanation. "My son has had all his blood sucked dry. Don't say it wasn't your haunted house that did this." A flash of golden light knocked the yellow weasel out of his hand. Then, it turned into a shadow and swept past. Suddenly, a weasel with bristling fur appeared out of nowhere. Holding the little yellow weasel tightly in his arms, he roared angrily, "Grandma Aunt. Even if my child hurt Wang San. So, you beast, you were hiding here." With that, a ghostly claw reached into the bushes. But what it pulled out was a wrinkled yellow weasel. Grandma Ant looked puzzled and asked, "Who around here could possibly kill the yellow immortal?" Just as Ghost Lao was pondering. At this moment, a black and red aura burst out from the ghostly whale, enveloping the surroundings. Under the shroud of the aura, Grandmother Ant caught a faint scent, and quickly flew out of the ghostly whale. "Where are those damn yellow weasels hiding? If you hadn't bullied Little Nine's third uncle, how would my nephew have been tormented by those beasts? Get out here now." Before long, it reached the gathering place of the weasels. As soon as it landed, the foreigner waved his hand. A chilling wind arose all around. Ghostly aura spread everywhere. They immediately scattered in fear. Seeing this, the old woman sneered, "Heh, you may outrun the monk, but you can't escape the temple." Then the ghost let out a howl and turned into a red light, floating into the sky. "Grandma will go find them to settle the score." She got into the ghost palanquin and flew to Chaos Grave Island. "You damned evil ghosts. Come out, Grandma is here." However, when these ghostly beings saw the ghost immortal descending, before I could finish speaking, a blood-red palanquin suddenly appeared out of thin air. Grandma Ant angrily said, "A group of little rascals. How dare you bully my nephew? Xiao Jiu, stay at home. How dare they use coffin nails to harm people? What kind of evil thing is this in the mass grave?" It seems this matter isn't simple. Seeing how furious Grandma was, I quickly offered, "How about I go get Granny to take a look?" With that, I pulled a black nail from my pocket. "Look, Granny, the evil spirits were using this to attack me." Granny quickly reached out to take it. After checking everything, she angrily shouted, "These damn beasts." Luckily, we arrived just in time. We made it. With lingering fear, I said, "There are so many ghosts near the burial grounds now. If someone passes by in the future, they'll surely be in danger." The incense in the burner started acting up. people fear death the most, and incense fears two short and one long. Seeing this, I quickly sent someone to look for you. When the spirits in the haunted house saw the power of the ash, they all retreated. I couldn't help but feel grateful for Grandma's protective ash this time, but I still asked Grandma, feeling confused. How did you know something would happen to us? Grandma Wenyan's face darkened, not long after you left. After listening to Grandma's explanation, I breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that before I passed out, the protective ash Grandma gave me, accidentally spilled. I fell to the ground. My consciousness gradually faded. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself already back home. I hurriedly asked about Huzi's condition. I was tripped like this. My steps were unsteady, and I stumbled forward. The pouch of incense ash Grandma gave me scattered all over the ground. With a thud, I pulled the awakened tiger baby and ran forward. Tiger, run fast. These are all ghosts. But I hadn't run a few steps, when the earlier iron chain quickly wrapped around my ankle. I swiftly pulled out 2 gold needles from my pocket, and inserted them into both mine and Hua's heads. The needles pierced Bai Hui, connecting yin and yang. After finishing, my scalp tingled under their gaze. Cold sweat ran down my face. Beside me, Hua finally realized something was wrong. He quickly stopped what he was doing, ignoring the fear. Amidst the intense coughing, his head actually detached from his neck. With a thud, it fell to the ground. Immediately, a metal chain stretched out from his head. His blood-red eyes stared at me unblinkingly. She walked straight to the armchair and sat down. Then she grabbed the food in front of her and started devouring it. In the end, he even picked up the plate and desperately shoved food into his mouth. The food that hadn't been swallowed got stuck in the old prisoner's throat. Panicked, the old fisherman coughed violently, clutching his neck. Just as I was pondering a plan, a sudden sound of drums and gongs rang out. The fierce and vicious demons from before all turned to look. 2 young girls were seen supporting an elderly lady in fine clothes as she approached, ignoring everyone's gaze. "Hey kid, sit down and watch the show." I was startled. Oh no, it's a malicious spirit blocking the way. So many evil spirits are in the way. How can I escape with the tiger cub? Stop eating. We need to leave here quickly. But this shout startled the audience watching the show. They all turned to glare at me. Their sharp gazes seemed to want to swallow me whole. A Thai 100 was placed right in the center. The table was filled with a lavish feast. It seemed to be prepared for an important figure. Hua, with a blank expression, grabbed a steamed bun and stuffed it into his mouth. I quickly shouted, "Hua." After passing through a cave, a strange scene sent chills down my spine. Suddenly, a stage appeared in front of me. The audience was packed with people dressed in ancient costumes. Around them stood pale-faced musicians playing Swona horns. He quickly walked forward. Seeing this, I shouted from behind and tried to catch up with him. But Hua walked faster and faster. In my hurry to chase after him, I ignored my surroundings. Once we get past this, everything will be fine. But Tiger Boy's eyes were vacant. He murmured, "Brother 9. Look, there are so many people performing opera ahead." Before I could respond, "Do you hear someone calling us?" I also realized we might have encountered something sinister. I recalled what Grandma said before. I quickly warned, "Don't look back. Hold on to me and keep moving forward." Then I set off on the road with Hua. In the pitch-dark night, strange noises came from all around. Hua was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. He trembled and said, "Jogu," to ask Tiger from next door to go with me. She also told me to bring the incense ash pouch she had made. No matter what sounds we hear on the way, we mustn't look back. I waved my hand to indicate that I was at ease. The bullet from Tuzi's shot was lodged in his flesh. We need to treat the inflammation quickly. I immediately told Grandma I was going to town to buy some herbs. I asked him to wait for me at home. Grandma, concerned, advised me. Grandma asked me what was wrong. I quickly replied, "Nothing." "Grandma, let's hurry back." After we got home, I carefully checked third uncle's wounds. It opened its mouth wide and drained her essence in one gulp. I, who was naturally sensitive to ghostly cries, was immediately startled. I quickly turned to look back. But there was nothing behind me. When I was feeling down, a yellow weasel silently watched me from behind. A trace of killing intent flickered in its pitch-black pupils. Just then, a figure suddenly emerged from the grass. A ghost in red with a pale face. The vengeful spirit grabbed her. "He would have killed you long ago." Then she had me help Uncle Sam as we headed back, reminding us to prepare the offerings properly, and apologize sincerely to the yellow immortal, as we were leaving. But by the third shot, the gun barrel blew up after 10 shots. Grandma Long slapped Sanwa on the head. "What yellow weasel? That's the yellow immortal. If it weren't for the fact that your mother is a spirit medium," and asked if she looked more like a human or a god. I didn't respond. She opened her mouth and lunged at me. I was startled at that moment. I shot at her twice. She softly called out to Sanhwa to wake up. After a while, Sanhwa said pitifully, "Mother, I've been possessed. Just now, a yellow weasel ran up to me. Hurry and help me to the West River. Your third uncle got into trouble." I quickly took Long Pa and rushed over. At this time, Sanhwa was collapsed on the ground with both faces swollen. Long Pa, feeling heartbroken, helped her up. "How dare you shoot at me? Quickly take him away to the West River. If you come late, don't blame me for killing him." Just as I was wondering which immortal was making this statement, the old woman slowly opened her eyes. Xiao Jiu. Before I could finish, I saw her roll her eyes. A bluish smoke began to rise around her. "It feels like I'm possessed by an immortal. Your 3 kids really are audacious. You're about to start high school. When you live on campus, make sure to carry this dagger with you." I laughed and replied, "Don't worry, Grandma. Nothing should happen at school." 10 years have passed. The dagger I was dancing with in the courtyard was a gift from Uncle. Just when I was sweating all over, Granny Long told me, "Xiao Jiu, keep this leather bag safe." Hearing this, Old Chen exclaimed in shock, "So powerful." Luckily, Xiao Jiu was brave and sweet-talking. "If you can win his favor, you'll be blessed in the future." Time flies. Old Chen quickly asked who she really was. She could even easily subdue the evil entity in the iron coffin. When Yanlongpo explained that Granny Ant is a ghost immortal who has cultivated for 1,000 years. In another 100 years, she could achieve immortality. Then she could ascend to the immortal realm. "You're welcome. Xiao Jiu calls you Grandma. Let's address each other as equals. From now on, just call me older sister." Watching Granny Ant leave, seeing this, the Ma-E ghost no longer hesitated. With a wave of my hand, a beam of white light flew into Long Po's body, and then the exorcism mentioned my name. "I will come to help you at that time." Long Po, who had clung to me, was instantly thrilled. "Thank you, Grandma. Grandma, would you like me to set up a memorial tablet for you in the hall? If you miss Xiao Jiu, you can come and see him." The foreigner hesitated upon hearing this. "It was fine to be worshipped by you." But the little snake spirit's 8th master immediately said, "If the old woman is blessed to be worshipped by you, our earth spirit immortal family will certainly respect you. Don't go, come play at my house." When Yan's grandmother showed a pleased expression, "This child is so filial. Grandma, the more I see you, the more I like you." The old woman was startled. It seemed like she remembered something. "My nephew almost got eaten by a ghostly skin." When Yan and the others exclaimed, "Ghostly skin." After learning the background of the matter, Long Po was moved to tears. I mumbled in a daze, "Grandma." Noa Fei Ning took action. "But the ghost in that coffin will surely be in endless trouble." The ghost scoffed coldly, "If you're going to thank someone, thank my grandson. I only acted out of respect for him. You 2 old fools, why didn't you keep an eye on him?" As fragments of her spirit slowly drifted down, the onlooker Long Po was chilled to the bone. Why has an even fiercer one appeared? Then she clasped her hands and said, "Old woman, thank you, Ant Ghost Immortal, for your assistance." The female ghost immediately begged for mercy, saying, "I dare not." However, the person in the sedan ignored her plea, and pulled her inside with a single motion. In an instant, the female ghost's wails echoed through the sky, turned into a green mist, attempting to flee. But just then, the 8 ghost servants blocked her with a rainbow palanquin. "You little vixen, I heard you've harmed many people." Sensing that the person in front of her was not to be trifled with, as if it was going to make him pay for his earlier disrespect, the female ghost, terrified, quickly covered her mouth. "This humble woman dares not look." She then released the trapped old sorceress, quickly slipped into the coffin. The female ghost shouted in horror, "How do you have protective merit?" When he saw the medal on Old Chen's chest, he sneered and said, "So it's just a broken medal." Before he could finish speaking, the sky flashed with lightning and thunder. With a loud bang, Old Chen's arms went numb from the shockwave. Seeing this, the female ghost raised her hand and reached for Old Chen's chest. Little did he know that the moment he touched it, it immediately began to sizzle with golden light. "I've spent half my life on the battlefield. Why would I fear a beast like you coming for my life?" With that, he raised his sword and slashed forward. The female ghost showed no hesitation. She dodged and rushed ahead. The one surnamed Zhou was already close to his end, and the old woman was unable to protect herself. Once that pine leaf's magic power was exhausted, he would be slowly drained to death in the iron coffin. Hearing this, Old Chen let out an angry shout. "A mere iron coffin. Grandma can handle it easily." At this moment, in Old Tian's home, Old Chen was holding a white chopping knife. He was already at the end of his strength. The red-dressed female ghost in front of him mocked him, saying he should stop struggling, and gently comforted me, "Silly child. If you're looking for the snow lion, you need to go to the snowy mountains. Coming to grandma's place here in the hemp clothes mountain is a waste of time, isn't it? But since you called me grandma, I'll help you out. And said she might not come back this time. Zyogio wanted to find Uncle Shuesher for help, but got lost in the woods. Seeing me wailing loudly, the ant ghost guy pulled me into his arms, knocked my head. Grandma Zyogio wants to ask you to help save my grandmother. Wen Yen Gulao asked in confusion. Long Zayayatu, what's wrong? I cried and said my grandmother went to deal with the dirty things. I was stunned in place after hearing that. Now there's an extra old lady. I didn't have time to think. At this moment, saving the old lady is the priority. Then I heavily, let's just form a good relationship. After making up his mind, the foreigner immediately smiled and said, call me grandma. It's the middle of the night. What are you, a child, doing out here in the wilderness? Seeing this, I immediately knelt down and bowed, swearing loyalty with blood. Little Joe thanks grandma for saving my life. The foreigner in the sect saw how obedient and docile I was, and thought to himself, the son of this ghostly fiend has now changed. He's no longer of any use to me. Pays respects to the ghost immortal. A heavy, hoarse voice echoed from above, hee hee. You blind beasts. Grant this immortal a favor. Upon hearing this, the two ghosts immediately turned into blue smoke and disappeared. 8 female ghosts in red, carrying a large sedan, suddenly appeared before my eyes. The once arrogant ghost was now trembling in fear. He quickly knelt to the ground, shouting, your humble servant. There was a bang, and the golden light shattered. That damned passport is finally gone. Now I can finally enjoy the food. Just at this critical moment. This is Uncle Pine and Uncle Gene. You little brats still have some skills. Let's see how long you can last. The two ghosts quickly waved their claws and rushed towards the light. After a short while, I didn't manage to eat you at birth. Now you've actually come knocking at my door. Saying this, he stretched out his ghostly claw to grab him. Unexpectedly, the moment he touched the small foot, he was knocked back by a burst of golden light. The wolves, terrified, quickly cowered on the ground. They humbly made way, bowing low. The two ghostly forms appeared before Xiaojiu. Eerie laughter echoed through the silent valley. You little creature. Xiaojiu was so frightened that he fell to the ground. Tears streamed down uncontrollably. At this critical moment, a ghostly howl lured the wolf pack. Two ghostly figures in beastly attire emerged from the forest. Deep in the forest, pairs of eerie green eyes appeared. As the sounds got closer, dozens of hungry wolves appeared before him. Seeing this, but he comforted himself, I'm a man. I can't cry. Then he got up and continued walking forward. With all his strength, he climbed up a small hill, only to find a dead end ahead. And behind him, the howling of wolves grew louder. I have to find Uncle Shui to save Grandma. At that moment, he slipped, fell hard to the ground. Tears welled up in his eyes. In the pitch-black night, strange sounds echoed all around him. There were even eerie laughs faintly ringing in his ears. Xiao Jiona was terrified. She hugged her arms, trembling, and mumbled, you can't just abandon him like this. Meanwhile, Xiao Jiu rushed alone into the deep mountains to get help. Lompa mentioned that General Shui lives around here, but he lost his way in the forest. He watched as the female ghost chewed on the flesh in her mouth. The spirit possessing Lompa's body, Master Ba, felt quite at ease. This filthy thing is so fierce. Master Ba, better make a run for it. When Yen Chen, the old man, quickly pleaded, you are the earth spirit that Lompa has worshipped for years. Fortunately, Lompa was quick-witted. He quickly pushed him away, but he was bitten on the arm by the female ghost. Ignoring the pain, Lompa struggled to pull his arm back. He hurriedly stepped back. She roared, you all deserve to die. I will tear you to pieces. Then, with a flash, she vanished from everyone's sight. In the next second, it appeared behind Captain Zhou. It opened its huge mouth and bit down. He spit into his mouth. The old man Wen Yen had an awkward look on his face after making such a commotion. Fine, if you say bite the mouth, then bite it. During their conversation, the female ghost, who had regained her spirit form, slowly rose. That beast didn't do anything to you, right? This filthy thing. Before it dragged me inside, I kept the rooster's blood and ash in my mouth. When it opened its mouth to bite me, Captain Zhou hurriedly crawled out of the coffin. His clothes were in tatters. Breathing heavily, old Chen hurriedly helped him up. He asked with concern, are you okay? He raised both hands high. A giant shadow of a green snake appeared behind him. The seductive power to expel evil lingered. By the decree, break. In an instant, the female ghost was struck and sent flying. You will be worshipped. Master Wen Yen laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, are you serious? How dare I deceive you? Suddenly, the expression on Master Ba's face changed. Even I can't deal with what's inside that iron coffin. I only wish to ask you to help me open the coffin lid. There's no need for you to fight against any evil spirits. If you help me open the coffin, I will have someone build a temple for you soon." With that, Granny Long formed a seal with her hands. Chanting, "I call upon the Earth Spirit, Immortal Lord Bay, to help me destroy this evil." Granny Long's aura surged. Her eyes turned into the green heads of snakes. Weren't we supposed to not meddle in other matters? Damn it. Then came heavy breathing from inside the coffin. From time to time it could be heard. How bold. Hearing this, the old lady blushed. "You immoral thing. Today, this old woman will deal with you. She also needs to be struck dead by lightning. The ghost woman from Guangzhou isn't afraid and mocks. Go ahead, strike me dead. That man won't survive either. Besides, even if I'm struck by lightning, sleeping with such a man before dying is worth it." Captain Zhou shouted angrily, "Don't take off my pants. Dame! Dame! Elegant butterfly!" Upon hearing this, the old woman immediately said, "Abomination. If you don't come out, I'll stake my life on it." Grandma Long bit the tip of her tongue, spitting a mouthful of fresh blood into the wind. "Get out of the way. I will use this bloody tip of my tongue to force the abomination out." As the old woman's palm came down, a scream from the female ghost and Captain Zhou's cries for help echoed inside. Who would have thought the female ghost would drag Captain Zhou into the iron coffin? With a bang, the coffin lid shut tightly. Old Chen hurried forward, using brute force to open the coffin, but it was to no avail. The female ghost seized the opportunity and darted behind him. She extended her ghostly claw and lifted him up. Seeing this, the sorceress quickly splashed out an attack. "Blood fiend, meet your death." Her spirit, damaged, floated into the air, trying to escape, but the spirit exorcising seal of the sorceress blocked their retreat. Captain Zhou quickly lashed out with the ghost-whipping whip at the female ghost. Unexpectedly, his arm shook, and he missed entirely. Just as the words were spoken, the foolish son of the landlord pushed the door open and entered. The female ghost spread her legs, ready to pounce on him. Seeing this, the shaman immediately took out a jar of enchanted blood and rushed at the female ghost. The moment the blood touched her, it burned her, making her scream in agony. Then, a spirit glowing with green light slowly crawled out. Accompanied by eerie ghostly screams, it roared and charged toward the group. The group hurriedly dodged. Unexpectedly, they fell right into the female ghost's trap. The shaman hurriedly shouted to the people outside, "Don't come in." As soon as the words were spoken, a gust of cold wind made the ghost bell jingle. The shaman reminded them, "He's coming." Everyone nervously looked at the crying figure. They saw a pair of ghostly hands reaching out from the well. "You two are full of righteous energy. Just the bane for haunted houses." After speaking, she pulls out a ghost-whipping whip and hands it to Captain Zhou. "Xiao Zhou, when that filthy thing comes, use this to whip him." Captain Zhou immediately placed his fist on his chest, shouting loudly, "Soldiers fight to protect the people. If that filthy thing comes, I'll bite him even if I die." From now on, Granny Long shows a joyful expression. Holding the blood-draining sword, he reassured Longpa that with this big knife of mine, even the female ghost wouldn't dare to show up in this bright formation. He then sighed and said, "The two of us old bones are fine. But Comrade Xiao Zhou, you shouldn't be gambling with your life alongside us." I reluctantly said to the pine tree in the courtyard, "Old pine, after the girl leaves, the home will be entrusted to you." Then I hurried towards fourth Uncle Tian's house. At this time, Old Chen set up the Taoist exorcism at Giant Soul Ridge as instructed by Longpa. The meaning behind her words, I just felt like she might never return. Just thinking about losing her, I had a sudden inspiration, and then I ran out quickly. After settling my dragon grandmother, "Be a good and obedient child." After saying this, Grandma was about to leave. Seeing this, I hurriedly threw myself into her arms. At such a young age, I didn't understand. The spirit tablet of the old woman has been thanked by everyone. Then Longpa came to my side. "When Grandma Xiaojiu is not around, you must listen to your third uncle." As soon as the words were spoken, the 3 incense sticks on the offering table quickly burned out. Immediately after, a character appeared on the incense table, but I was hiding at the door, secretly watching the tears of gratitude from Longpa. The old woman kneels before the altar, praying to the deities. "Tonight, I have decided to fight that vengeful spirit, even if I die as the head of this haunted house. I ask you to remember my years of devotion. Please, protect my family." One sentence from the old shaman dashed their hopes. Now, only half of her powers have been destroyed. Once we get through tonight, we'll truly be safe. As the sky gradually darkens, the female ghost hit let out waves of agonizing wails. The sound was deafening. As the smoke and fire dissipated, the female corpse turned to dust. Just when everyone thought it was over, Lompa was startled, not expecting such a fierce ghost. It almost attacked in broad daylight. Without another word, she quickly pulled out a piece of dark wood and threw it. Old woman, I'll give up this sacred wood used to ward off evil. I don't believe you can't be destroyed. The female corpse was instantly engulfed in flames. At that moment, a wisp of spirit emerged from the fire. It roared, after nightfall, you'll all die. Everyone in your village will be buried with me, as long as we burn the body in time. To prevent him from merging with his soul, he will no longer be able to harm people. Upon hearing this, everyone immediately started gathering firewood in the courtyard. With a swift toss of her fire stick, after speaking, Tian Laosi held his head and wailed, Lady Long, you must save my family. It was all my grandfather's doing. It has nothing to do with us. In response, Longpa quickly reassured, I have temporarily suppressed him with the wind thunder fan. After Master Tian learned about this, he whipped him to death with a lash. To make him suffer as much as possible, Master Tian secretly had the Taoist skin and dismember him. Then he used 49 soul-sealing nails to pin him inside an iron coffin. The woman in the coffin was one of the concubines of a Tian family elder. However, this woman came from a theatrical troupe. She was beautiful like a flower, but flirted with men everywhere. She was caught in the act of adultery with a servant of the household. Seeing this, everyone hurriedly approached to demand the truth. Old 4, quickly tell us everything you know. Through Tian Laosi's narration, the century-old feud finally surfaced. It turns out that the Tian family was a prestigious clan in the region 100 years ago. I must uncover the truth, and give the deceased justice. Upon hearing this, Tian Laosi, who was watching outside, sat down on the ground in shock. He murmured, he has come back. He's back to claim lives. This is actually a vengeful, undying corpse. Old Chen sighed. To torture someone like this. No wonder the resentment is so deep. Captain Zhou beside him angrily said, who on earth did this inhumane act? Blood splattered, droplets flying towards the old lady's face. Luckily, Granny Long quickly flicked her fan to block it. As the blood flowed out, the situation inside was fully revealed. Seeing the full appearance of the female corpse, Granny Long broke out in a cold sweat. Fanning backward brings thunder. This is an unparalleled divine weapon, for banishing evil and warding off demons. The female corpse immediately stood up, ready to resist, but was swept into the pool of blood by the powerful wind. Seeing the crowd gather around, the severed head suddenly let out a creepy laugh. Witnessing this scene, the old lady quickly used the wind and thunder fan. Fanning forward brings wind. He shielded everyone behind him. With a creaking sound, Captain Zhou stepped forward and lifted the coffin lid. The moment the coffin opened, a foul stench spread out. Old Chen dug up the old well where the woman's body was buried. As the crane lifted, the iron coffin was finally pulled out of the well. As soon as it touched the ground, a cold wind began to blow. The old woman immediately took out the wind and thunder fan bestowed by the immortals. Then said sternly, Comrade Zhou Limin, I swear on my medals. The strange events in this village are indeed related to the haunted house. Please leave it to someone capable to handle it. Just now, Zhou Limin immediately straightened his back, and crisply saluted. He shouted loudly, Xiao Zhou. Reporting to the old general, Old Chen hurriedly waved his hand, signaling to keep it low-key. Seeing that he still didn't believe it, Old Chen took out 3 medals. Comrade, take a look at this. Zhou Liming was startled. Cold sweat broke out instantly. Medal of Freedom, Medal of Victory, First-Class Medal of Merit, in the next second. Upon hearing this, Old Chen countered, did you participate in that war 10 years ago? Zhou Liming replied solemnly, I've only heard about it. My comrades back then told me that the enemy used some kind of dark magic, but isn't that just a rumor? I'll make way for you. Seeing Old Chen about to leave, Zhou Liming quickly advised, Old man, you must be an important figure, but you shouldn't lead the way in promoting feudal superstitions. Old Chen pulled something out of his chest. The fat man immediately looked at him in horror. He stammered, unable to say a word. A single word, roll, slipped from Old Chen's mouth. The chubby cadre immediately smiled and said, you are right. Seeing this, Old Chen immediately stood up. National officials are here to serve the people. You ignore the people's feelings. How can you carry the title of an official? You're the kind of official who bullies others with power. I'll beat every one of you I see. To believe in science. And even claimed his identity as a government official. Everyone had to listen to him. These words angered the crowd. Stop talking nonsense. If you keep blocking the way, don't blame my fists for hitting your face. Here to investigate the murder case at Tian Laosi's house. Upon seeing this, Sanhua enthusiastically invited the two to get pine oil from Old Song. Unexpectedly, the fat guy next to them started cursing everyone for being superstitious. He self-righteously urged everyone to be materialists. Watching the pine oil drip, warding off evil spirits, the elder finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just as everyone was on their way back, two figures approached from afar. "I'm Zhou Limin from the county police station, and sprinkle the blood around the front and back of their houses." He informed everyone to come to his house to get a share of sacred ash. But even so, the protective items were still not enough for the villagers' needs. With no other choice, the elder brought out the ancient pine tree again. If not handled properly, the whole village could suffer. He immediately ordered everyone that from tonight onward, no one is allowed to go out after 8 p.m., especially the strong young men. Also, kill all the black dogs and roosters to drain their blood. These workers were sent by the county government. Now they've mysteriously died in my house. What should I do? Granny quickly spoke to comfort him, saying that this evil spirit is very dangerous. Old man Chen shouted, "Stop arguing. This is the work of something filthy." Hearing this, the crowd was so scared they quickly fled the scene. The next morning, the foolish son tearfully sought out Granny Lompa. It looked like a battle had just taken place. Seeing this situation, the nearby villagers, who were just watching, started talking, "This is shameless. Doing this kind of thing so late at night." At that moment, shouting, "Mother! Someone died at Tian Laoxi's house." By the time everyone arrived, they saw Ermao lying on the ground, half naked, his face flushed. Grandmother woke up from her sleep. She muttered, "Is something wrong? Something big happened." As soon as the words were spoken, Sanhua pushed the door open and rushed in. The roar of thunder perfectly masked the sound of the machine. After a while, a strange laugh echoed from the well. Then, a gush of black water mixed with several copper coins erupted. At the same time, the sky above was filled with ominous rolling thunder. In the hot July weather, snowflakes like goose feathers began to fall. Suddenly, Ermao got up from his sleep, walking into the yard without putting on any clothes. With a dazed expression, he activated the machine and continued digging. He would still turn into the fiercest demon. After listening, Old Chen comforted Grandma, telling her to rest assured. "I'll handle this matter." He then rushed home in a hurry. He called people late at night in the village. "Is like stewing someone in an iron pot, and with the concrete on top pressing down. It's like frying someone in hot oil." Even if he was a good person in life, after years of such torment, iron is lifeless. It does not connect with yin and yang. Once a ghost is trapped by it, there will never be a day of redemption. Being buried in an iron coffin. The mother-in-law sighed. Then she took out a bloodied lump of clay from her pocket. She said, "This is sanha soil. It is made by mixing lime, clay, sand, and black dog blood. It is specially used to suppress malevolent spirits." She then planned to inform everyone about the iron coffin. However, nearby, Old Chen suddenly pulled her aside, saying there were so many people watching. "Can you be sure that the dirty thing is right here? That's a minor issue, it's feudal superstition. To put it more seriously, it's damaging the production team's efforts. Don't listen to my dad's nonsense. It's all thanks to the government. But the land at my home is really hard to dig. Even with machines, we only managed to dig a little over a meter." Hearing this, the mother-in-law let out a heavy sigh of relief. "The leaders specially arranged a construction team to drill a well for us." Hearing this, Grandma's face changed. Could they have already dug up the iron coffin? Just as he was about to step forward to check, a young man dressed like a white-collar worker stepped forward. "Grandma Ma." When Tian Laoxi saw them, he hurried out to greet them, boasting non-stop about how successful his son was, working in town and being well regarded by his superiors. "Isn't it known that our village has difficulties with water?" The two quickly ran to check the situation. At this moment, a group of villagers had surrounded Tian Laoxi's house completely. "What's Laoxi up to? Why is it so lively?" Old Chen squeezed in with his wife. "Not good, a lot of experts have come to the city. They're here to help the Tian family dig a well for water. For irrigation." When Nian and the two elders were startled. "This is bad." She said to Old Chen that the filthy creature in the well wasn't easy to deal with. This time, there might be a risk to their lives. And just at that moment, Uncle San rushed over in a hurry. He shouted, "Mother," but he couldn't just stand by and watch as 300 lives in the village were lost to that filthy creature. Even if it costs him his life, he would still make a final effort. After making up his mind, the old woman came to the courtyard. Another figure immediately appeared on the altar. "Mind your own business. Don't worry about others' affairs." Grandma looked at the immortal's reminder, and realized this was no small matter. Not long after, words slowly appeared on the altar. "Sanha earth, iron coffin. Black water claims 300 lives." After watching, Grandma exclaimed, "This is a terrible omen. How could there be a metal coffin in this day and age?" Seeing Grandma's question, the incense on the altar quickly ignited, and soon turned to ashes. Seeing this, the old woman hurriedly knelt and bowed. Thank you, Immortal, for granting this disciple's request. It seems she must teach you a lesson. The next day, the old lady went to the main hall to burn incense and pray, asking the spirits to reveal themselves, to help her disciple find out what that filthy thing was. As soon as the words were spoken, "How dare you cause trouble in my Shenyuan family?" But when she focused her eyes, the haunted house had long since vanished. The old lady's expression was grim, muttering about disturbances coming again and again. "Xiaojiu, who are you talking to?" I quickly explained to Wen Yan that it was the sister I saw at Uncle Tian's old well before. "She hasn't finished speaking yet." Grandma burst out of the door. She shouted, "You bold evil spirit." She was staring intently at the baby in Aunt's arms. Back then, I had no concept of ghosts or spirits. Happily, I greeted her, "Sister, why don't you come in and play?" Uncle San was shocked by my actions, sweating profusely. A pale, bloodied hand reached out. Then a blood-covered ghostly woman stuck her head out. At that moment in the courtyard, third uncle joyfully lifted me into the air. But I saw the sister who had been hiding in the well, and went straight to the old well. Without hesitation, he threw the placenta into the well. As the sound of the splash echoed, a strange, eerie scream came from the dry well, from the hollow depths of the well. Don't let it fall into the hands of those heartless sellers who might harm others. But just at that moment, a gust of cold wind swept by. It confused him, making him lose his senses. Then, he turned and walked toward Tian Lao Si's house. He couldn't contain his happiness. After the mother-in-law saw that everything was settled, she smiled and sent the midwife off. Then, she reminded her, "Leave the matter to you to handle." But as soon as the midwife walked away, she muttered, "This placenta needs to be buried properly. I feel much better." Not long after, Aunt's cries of pain came from the room. A soft, rosy baby girl was born. Third uncle was overjoyed upon learning that both mother and daughter were safe. My little face turned red. "Third uncle, no need to be so formal with me." As Aunt drank the medicinal soup, before long, her face turned rosy, and she said to mother-in-law, "Mother, before taking the medicine, let your aunt hold a peace." Earlier, Uncle Shui gave me a slap on the head, reminding me of the ancient text about the 1,000-year death. I had completely forgotten about that. Uncle San excitedly hugged me. "Little Jiu, your kindness is remembered by Uncle San. I just told them, 8 qian of Wei version, 3 liang of Angelica, 6 qian of Chuanxiong. Add water and boil it, then serve it. This is the bone powder that helps babies to be born." Old Chen, who knows my skills, quickly urged me to follow him. We moved to a corner. The two of them anxiously asked Xiaojiu, "What solution do you have? Hurry and tell us." I didn't mention anything about the female ghost. "I have a solution." Hearing this, everyone's eyes turned to me. The midwife scolded, "Xiaojiu, don't cause more trouble. This is a matter of life and death." Old Chen, with a face full of worry, asked the midwife if there were any other options. If there were any solutions. "I won't make things difficult for you." Just then, I suddenly spoke up, "Everyone, don't panic." The midwife called out to them, saying that they had to walk to the county hospital in town. Uncle Wen Yan sat on the ground in pain. It was over 300 miles to the county town. Even if there was a car, it would still take some time. Everyone immediately became anxious and flustered. Old Chen instructed, "Go borrow an ox cart from Sanhua. I'll go raise some money. It will cost quite a bit at the hospital in town." Just as the two of them ran away, "The child will be born soon." As soon as the words were spoken, the door was pushed open. The midwife shouted anxiously, "Quick, go get a carriage. We need to get to the hospital, the baby is in distress." As time passed, Aunt San cried for an entire afternoon. Listening to the daughter-in-law's cries, Sanhua anxiously scratched his ears and cheeks. Old Chen comforted him, saying not to worry. The door of old Tian's house was suddenly slammed open. "Grandmama, hurry back. Your daughter-in-law is about to give birth." The mother-in-law was overjoyed to hear this. She quickly pulled me and rushed home. Seeing my puzzled expression, my grandmother smiled and explained that ancient coins can ward off evil. These copper coins, which have long been infused with the life force of the living, are just the thing to counter the haunted house. Just as my grandmother and I were about to leave, in a childlike voice, I said, "Sister, are you there? Grandma and I came to see you." After waiting for a moment, Grandma saw there was no response. She then took a few copper coins from her bag and threw them into the well. A surge of black blood gushed out, and after Grandma returned home, she still felt uneasy. She took me back to Tian Laoxi's house again. "Good grandson, did you really see that, sister?" Hearing this, I immediately leaned over the well. "I'll hang up right away." Then we'll be leaving first. If you need anything, come find me. After Grandma walked far away, the peachwood knife hung by old man Tian suddenly split open with several cracks. The old woman sensed something was off, but couldn't pinpoint the issue. Then she took out a peachwood knife. Old 4. I'll give you this knife. Hang it at your door to ward off evil. Thank you, Auntie. Old man Chen raised his hand to decline the old lady beside him. He walked up and asked, Old 4, have you been feeling unwell recently? Old Tian scratched his head. No, just feeling a bit sleepy. There was nothing unusual. The old lady thought with a heavy expression, could it be that only Xiaojiu's yin-yang eyes can see clearly? At this moment, the old man Chen had already finished his work and walked out. Old man, don't go. Stay, I'll cook a chicken for you. There's no eerie aura here either. Just as she was still inspecting the surroundings, an old well appeared before her eyes. The old lady leaned over to look into the well. The well appeared ordinary. When Yantian excitedly pulled old man Chen and rushed inside. In order to help Xiaojiu keep the secret, old man Chen had no choice but to go along. The old woman looked around, muttering to herself, how strange. Just as Grandma was about to speak, the doctor stepped forward and came to Laosi. Old Chen has developed a medicine for the plague. Those who took the medicine earlier already have their fevers down. You should use it at home soon, too. As a result, their family is the richest in the village. At this moment, the old lady knocked on the door of old Tian's house. Is anyone home? After a while, Tian Laosi opened the door with a pale face. Auntie, what brings you here? How could she still see unclean things? The dragon skin paper has wrapped around her body, but her eyes are still exposed. After speaking, the old lady planned to use the opportunity of delivering medicine to meet the sister I spoke of. The daughter of old Tian, the fourth, married into a wealthy family in town. Licking him. Aunt Air was so scared she squeaked and whimpered. No way, Xiaojiu. Did you see it wrong? I then asked Grandma beside me. Mother, didn't you already change her skin? She immediately crouched down and urgently asked me. Quick, talk to Grandma. Which well did you see it in? Sister, I scratched my head and recalled, it was in the well at Uncle Tian's house. That sister even flew out and landed on Uncle Tian's neck. Seeing Grandma so happy, I cheerfully said, remember to say hi to the sister in the well for me. Grandma was shocked when she heard this and exclaimed, Xiaojiu, what did you just say? Grandma, happy, stroked my head. Smiling, she praised me, good grandson. You're amazing, you saved the whole village. After speaking, Grandma quickly ran toward the door, ready to share the good news with everyone. Upon hearing this, the doctor immediately rushed toward Grandpa. Then he grabbed her hand. With stars in his eyes, he exclaimed, Old Chen, you're truly full of hidden talents. At this moment, to keep my secret, Grandpa forced himself to nod slightly and replied, how do you know about these? Quick, let me meet this master. Just as I was about to speak, my grandfather hurriedly pushed the door open and entered. It was my idea. Do you think your few herbs can cure it? You haven't even finished your sentence. The doctor was stunned, because he realized that the herbs I was holding were all over 100 years old, magical remedies that ward off evil and disease. Excitedly, he lifted me up. I'm not afraid, and I went straight to third uncle. At that moment, a wolf beside me grabbed me. You're just a kid. You sure talk big. Do you know how many villages this plague has affected? Seeing this, my grandmother immediately stopped me. Little Jior, hurry and go out. Be careful not to get infected. I was just pushing her away. My mother-in-law said I have herbs. Don't worry, Sanwa's mother will personally arrange the wedding. Marry her off in style. Just as everyone was immersed in sadness, I excitedly ran in holding the herbs. Third uncle, this can cure illnesses. Once the child is born, you can let her remarry. He is still young. Auntie was heartbroken and lost control of her emotions. The mother-in-law immediately stepped forward to hold her. When the time comes, we'll reunite underground. But Sanwa remains optimistic. He gently comforts everyone, saying not to lose hope. I'm leaving, and little Gio will pay her respects to you. And my wife too. You have also used the methods of the supernatural practitioners. There's really no other way. Grandma looks haggard. The plague has lasted a month. 9 out of 10 houses in the village are empty. With my old bones, it's only a matter of time before I'm buried. At this moment, everyone at home looked mournful. Strong as he always was, Sanwa now lay on the bed like a dried-up corpse. His wife, heavily pregnant, was crying bitterly beside him. The doctor they invited sighed, Grandmama, I've done all I can to treat my third uncle's illness. At a young age, I still didn't understand what sickness was, just hoping third uncle's illness would get better soon. Take me to catch frogs. Grandpa sighed with worry, saying, I'm afraid your third uncle won't recover. I thought I would live the rest of my life in peace. However, when I was 5 years old, an accident still came. A plague broke out in the village. My grandfather took me up the mountain to gather herbs. This should be the child's surname. Grandma replied with a smile, all right. From now on, let's call the baby Hua Jiunan. Since that day, those haunted houses never came back again. A cage coiled atop a green pine. Grandma held me in her arms, and couldn't help but sigh that I was truly a child of many hardships. Why not call me Jiunan then? At that moment, old Chen noticed the pattern on the back of the jade pendant. I absorbed it all into my body. The dragon that had wrapped around me slowly merged into my skin. I gradually descended, facing Grandma with a joyful smile. A tattoo appeared on my back. They began to absorb the surrounding spiritual energy. Immediately after, several gold needles floated up, surrounding the Qinglong. As the golden light streaked by, the mighty azure dragon instantly turned to smoke. He hurriedly called over the old man Chen beside him to quickly take out the things left by the doll's mother. Hearing this, old man Chen immediately pulled out the gold needles and jade pendant he had prepared earlier. As soon as he finished speaking, the items in old man Chen's hand seemed to be summoned and flew toward me. They then landed steadily in my hand. Below, old Chen anxiously asked Granny why the child was acting strange. What other spells are there? Child, help him. Granny was also extremely nervous at this moment. Then she seemed to think of something. But as an infant, I cried out in pain from the torment. And the smoke grew thicker and thicker. A dragon's roar resounded. A dragon shape, formed from green smoke, tightly coiled around me. It watched me drifting in the air. The old woman pinned me in mid-air with one hand. She murmured that if the baby couldn't suppress it, the dragon's skin would turn to ashes along with it. As time passed, the dragon's skin coiled tighter and tighter. Upon hearing this, Lord Ba gathered energy in his core, squeezed out a blue-green skin pouch from his belly and tossed it into the array. The moment the snake's skin touched me, it tightly coiled around me. The demon spirits were terrified. A single finger disrupts yin and yang, the root of all energies, practicing diligently for an eon, yet gaining no supernatural powers. The 5 elements alter temper. Where is Lord Ba's mystical item? As I swallowed the pine oil, my body instantly radiated a brilliant golden light. The surrounding dark energy howled. Grandma struggled to maintain the formation, chanting the words of the celestial and earthly mysterious bell. The mighty Lord Changba would never flee in battle. You're always thinking of using Grandmother Ant's power to call for reinforcements. After Grandma finished her hand gestures, she dropped the last bit of pine oil into my mouth. Before he could finish speaking, the headless ghost king beside him couldn't wait any longer, and angrily shouted for him to stop wasting time, and focus on the task at hand. The old woman smiled and replied. After hearing this, the old lady looked very pleased. Nearby, old Chen immediately cupped his fists in gratitude. At that moment, Ape Master shamefully explained that this is equivalent to a dragon's body. I will gift you this treasure. Can we still discuss the matter of fleeing at the last moment? Ash turns to a flood dragon in 100 years. And a flood dragon turns to a true dragon in 1,000 years. Above the throat, there are also the dragon horns. Our family's ancestors were strong and generous. Getting back quickly is not simple. Then the 2 elders revealed disdainful smiles. Seeing this, the 8th master shouted angrily, what kind of expressions are those? Even if I fall a bit short, at least my ancestors were affluent. A snake turns to ash in 100 years. Now, they could only use skin from another tomb as a substitute. Master Wen's companion, the 8th master, asked, as long as it's skin with 1,000 years of cultivation, it will work. The old woman turned her head, shocked, and looked at the 8th master. It seems like something came to mind. As she spoke, Granny poured the ancient pine oil over me. After finishing this, the old woman sighed. He had cultivated all his life, but there was truly no skin from a 1,000-year-old tomb. The skin-changing secret technique officially began. The so-called skin-changing is to use the skin of a spirit object that is over 1,000 years old, to seal off all a person's agility, completely cutting off their path of cultivation. Old Quan was stunned in amazement. The old woman looked at the pine tree, her face lighting up with joy. With this ancient pine tree, those filthy things wouldn't dare come in. After Granny finished setting up the formation late at night, old Chen, standing by, asked in confusion, weren't you going to save the child? Why are you still messing around with this? As soon as he finished speaking, a small sapling shot up from the ground, and grew into a towering tree. This is the pine resin we need, and the 1,000-year-old pine given by Old Pine. After thanking Old Pine, the 2 elders hastily returned to the courtyard. The old lady quickly planted the pine branch in the yard. Seeing the 2 elders kneeling and not rising, another gust of wind blew through. A pine branch fell on old Chen's head. The pine needles were covered with a few drops of golden pine resin. The old lady was overjoyed at the sight. I will not worship heaven and earth. But if Lord Noah is willing to take action, I, your old minister, will bow to you. After saying that, he knelt down. With a loud thud, he kowtowed. If the child can't survive this ordeal, the village will suffer as well. Seeing the old woman's forehead covered in blood, old Chen beside her could no longer sit still. He immediately said, I, your old minister, do not believe in gods or spirits. The old lady, in despair, sighed and said, I know well this matter is full of doom. But right now, no one can help me except for you. After saying that, the old woman knocked her head hard against the ground. The girl wasn't just doing this for the child. It was also for the villagers. Today, I dare to ask you to save me again. The old lady hadn't finished speaking, when a breeze blew, making the pine branches rustle. The green pine needles fell with the wind, forming the character, ominous, on the ground. The old woman carefully lays out the offerings she brought. Then she lights 3 sticks of incense, and kindly says, Elder Song, the poor girl has come to see you. You once saved my life. At a glance, the entire world is covered in white snow. A green pine stands tall at the peak of the snowy mountain. The scene shifts. The two of them arrive smoothly in front of Elder Song. Before the skin change, they need to prepare 1,000-year-old pine resin wood. Granny pondered. It seems we have to consult old pine. Under the blazing sun, the two elders arrived at the foot of the immortal mountain. And the soul will be firmly established when they can speak. That won't happen until the children can talk. But it's not entirely impossible. Now, we can only adopt a skin-changing method. That's the only way for me to survive this calamity. Before he could finish speaking, his mother-in-law interrupted him. This calamity is far from over. Before the child's soul is firmly established, those ghostly women will come every night. What incredible luck, that the snow lion would actually step in to help. Soon after, the headless ghost king turned into a whale and returned to the underworld. Old Chen marveled, this kid has great fortune. He made it through last night's ordeal. In the future, he will definitely rise to great success. Old Chen stabbed the knife into the ground. Those filthy things should be taken care of by now. Yeah, it's dawn. No matter how fierce they are, they won't dare show up during the day. Elder Changba nearby clutched his chest, gasping for breath. As the snow gradually sank into the ground, the demon bound by iron chains let out a piercing wail. Before long, the sun rose in the east. Its warm rays shone on everyone. It felt so cozy. Seeing them leave, I opened my little hands to express my reluctance. He gave a sound. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes. Seeing this, my mother-in-law immediately came over and held me. Just as this matter happened, the great ape master of the green snake happened to pass by. The snow lion's large paw harshly stepped on ape master, completely ignoring ape master's pain, bending down to pick up the lady and preparing to leave. A trickle of blood flowed out, but in an instant, it transformed into energy and was fully absorbed by the earring. The snow lion, seeing this, gave a stiff and indifferent smile. He then turned and walked straight toward the lady. The evil spirit bound by the chains behind him screamed in terror. Seeing this situation, the moment Elder Changba, who was watching from a distance, saw this, he instantly turned into a green snake, ready to flee. I saw the snow lion forcefully rub the chain in his hand. Then he bent down and pierced a black earring into my earlobe. Just as Shuesher bent down, preparing to pick me up, Lively shouted, General, wait. Shuesher ignored it. His sharp eyes quietly scrutinized me, then suddenly yanked the chains on his body. Later, he cultivated for 1,000 years, becoming the mountain god who protects this region. While talking, the bloodied figure had already arrived before me. Seeing him, I was not afraid at all. Still babbling, reaching out to report, dismembering them completely. After avenging the great feud, the bloodied corpse knelt for 49 days in front of his loved one's grave, until it turned into a cold body. His deep loyalty and righteousness led the emperor to appoint him as the general of valor. The old woodcutter and his wife were brutally murdered at home. Suehua, to preserve her chastity, hanged herself. The blood corpse flew into a rage, and slaughtered the tyrant's entire family. But they were all beaten senseless by the blood corpse. So, they decided to lure the blood corpse away with a trick. As a result, the woodcutter's family lost their protection, fell into the hands of a tyrant. By the time the blood corpse returned, it was too late. But news of their marriage quickly sparked jealousy among men who admired Suehua, especially Huermao, the village bully, who relied on his brother being a constable, to act lawlessly in the village. He organized a group of thugs to raid the house and abduct the woman. The woodcutter's daughter, Suehua, was a renowned talent in the area. As they spent time together, they developed feelings for each other. Eventually, they married, becoming husband and wife. Remarkably brave, but he was born. When his foolish parents passed away early, he was taken in by an old woodcutter, who treated him as his own. Old Chen looked up and asked in confusion, which deity is this general? Not a deity, but he's a man of the righteous path. It is said he's the son of a hunter, born with divine strength. Old Chen was puzzled, thinking, is this thing really that powerful? Even the ghost immortal is running away. Before he could finish speaking, the old woman pulled Old Chen down to kneel on the ground, shouting, this humble commoner pays respects to the mighty general. A tall figure dragging iron chains approached. With a closer look, it turned out to be the blood corpse general, known as the mountain god. The ant ghost instantly transformed into a trick and fled the scene. The moment he saw the appearance of the blood corpse, in the blink of an eye, all the evil spirits around turned into ice sculptures. Beside them, Elder Changba was frozen into a coiled position. The ant ghost was so startled that his face turned pale. What is this? Before he could finish speaking, there really was no better solution now. At that moment, a sudden explosion echoed from the distant snow-capped mountains. The ground immediately began to shake as well. A chill erupted from beneath the earth. The headless ghost painstakingly tried to persuade the old lady. If you do this, your soul will be shattered, and you'll never find peace for eternity. Old Chen looked at the Buddha in shock. But he also knew, you ordinary people going there is just suicide. The old woman pulled out a bone full of dark energy, and said with a serious expression, I will consume this bone of millennial evil. I'll transform into the Ghost King to hold them off. You take the child and leave quickly. Seeing this, the vengeful spirits hiding nearby once again closed in. Old Chen shouted sternly, don't touch that child. He was about to step forward, but the old woman beside him stopped him. After a while, things indeed turned out as Ba Yi said. A surge of malevolent energy soared into the sky. The bloody hue in my eyes gradually faded. The lady who had just been wildly biting at the group of ghosts collapsed suddenly. Master Ba, watching from a distance, sighed. No matter how evil it seems, it's just for a moment. Once the evil aura dissipates, it'll be just like any other baby. There's no difference. Then it lunged fiercely at the group of ghosts. The screams and raspy cries echoed through the sky. Granny Long stared blankly at the scene. This baby is so powerful right after being born. What kind of trouble will it cause in the future? They roared and charged at me. I sneered in response, and quickly crawled into the belly of the dead woman. The corpse stood up instantly. A creepy laugh escaped from its throat. Old Chen asked, but the grandmother quickly realized something was wrong. No, he's being controlled by the son of the ENGSUB. The ghosts outside saw me, and instantly bared their fangs. Take your wife and children and run. I'll hold them off for you. At that moment, a figure flashed by. The headless ghost general appeared before the elders, carrying me. Why did you bring the child out? They formed a circle. The last ring of ash from the exorcists was eroded by the dark energy and became ineffective. These evil spirits could no longer be held back. The old woman's face turned pale. Then she shouted, Manhwa. I opened my sharp fangs, and bit off its long tongue in one bite. The vengeful ghost hurriedly fled in pain. At this moment, all kinds of monsters were lurking outside. The ghosts gathered one by one. There were still some who slipped through the net. A long-tongued ghost appeared before me. It tried to snatch me with its tongue, but I grabbed it instead. While I was curiously toying with it, he would have already broken in and started a massacre. At this moment, the ghost extended its claws, leapt into the air, and sliced the hanged ghost in half at the waist. But even with the yin suppression, it's not good. Something dirty has entered the house. Go and hold them off. The headless ghost rushed over. A hanged ghost tried to climb through the window. If it weren't for the promise from Grandma Long to subdue it. Who is this great immortal? The old woman frowned tightly. He is more troublesome than all these fierce ghosts combined. Just then, Sanwa's wife shouted for her mother. I'm just here to have a look, but if you can't handle those brats outside, I don't mind taking a share of the spoils. As the ghostly wail slowly approached, the massive cry of the ghost sent chills down Old Chen's back. Granny Aunt, aren't you about to ascend to immortality? Competing with Kusaningda for the son of the eagle fiend? A heavy, hoarse voice came from the cellar. Don't be afraid, Granny. And all knelt down to make way. Looking closely, 6 female ghosts in red were slowly floating, carrying the sedan chair. Inside sat an old ghost with white hair. The old woman was shocked. He came this time to assist her. Just as he finished speaking, the silent courtyard echoed with the sound of Swona horns. A blood-red sedan chair appeared in the mist. The surrounding haunted houses saw it. As Lord Ba looked back, the one approaching was none other than the legendary headless ghost general, Qingyun. Why are you here? It turns out he is the earth spirit fierce ghost general Qingyun, raised by Granny. He sensed that Granny would be in danger. Such a fierce celestial sign is beyond my abilities. I'm out, says Lord Ba. But before he could leave, a gigantic creature appeared behind him. Little green snake, where are you going? The full moon in the sky turned into a blood-red crescent, and the surrounding evil spirits became more violent under this blessing. In the next second, Lord Ba, who possessed the old woman, revealed his true form. Mingxing questioned what the origin of this doll was, to trigger such a great omen of misfortune. The old woman looked up. She shouted, "It's bad. Midnight has arrived. The heavenly dog devours the moon. Blood will linger." Old Chen arrived just in time. With one slash, he cut the creature in half. I've killed hundreds of little monsters with this big knife. The evil aura of the blade can easily tear apart Dao Hengdi's ghostly creatures. At this moment, a heavenly sound echoed. I also want to get a share of the pie. Just as my mother-in-law relaxed, a twisted-faced zombie suddenly appeared behind her. She had no time to dodge. In a critical moment, the old lady, seeing this, pulled out a demon-slaying whip. She swung it fiercely forward. With a crisp sound, the paper figures in front of her instantly disappeared. They were just lucky to have consumed the craft of the dead. Something dirty is coming. As soon as the words were spoken, 2 paper figures slowly drifted over. Upon closer inspection, the paper figures had ghostly skins stuck to their faces. I will definitely run away first. The next moment, my mother-in-law took out some incense ash and sprinkled it on the ground. Before long, the outside of the house was covered in footprints. The footprints led all the way into the courtyard. There are traces of the incense ash. Both humans and demons have to work hard, you know. Elder Changba smiled modestly. I'm just a snake. Don't praise me so highly. If the thing that comes is too fierce. Her eyes were glowing green. His pupils revealed a strange murderous intent. Old man, why are you back again? Elder Changba is the earth spirit worshipped by Granny Ma. I'm his old neighbor. Don't move. If anything happens to your mother and me, take your wife and children to the Bodhi temple at the top of the eastern mountain. Remember what your mother said. After saying this, he wrapped the cloth around him and went to his mother-in-law's side. At this moment, her appearance had drastically changed. He urged them to take good care of the child. Then he took out a jade seal from his chest. This is your mother's coat. He told you to take it to the roof and hide well. No matter what happens outside, you must not speak. Disciple Ma Chin Foam. Please, Lord Ba, possess me. Today, I will fight these beasts. At this moment, old man Chen anxiously rushed to carry the child into the house. He quickly handed the child to the grandmother and daughter-in-law. Don't worry about me for the next moment. You can see grandma holding a magic seal in her hand. Chanting, heaven clear, earth pure. Soldiers follow and respond. Generals act upon command. And shouted loudly, don't respond to him. That's a ghostly cry. Now the ghost gate has opened. These filthy things from the 5 Venoms Blood Maiden are ecstatic. First, get the child inside. A sudden chorus of ghostly wails erupted around. Old Chen, it smells so good. Hearing this sound, Grandma Long was startled. She quickly grabbed Old Chen beside her. I will repay your great kindness in my next life. As soon as she finished speaking, the mother coughed up blood, and passed away. As mother fell down, I will raise him to adulthood. When Yan's mother immediately knelt down on the ground, then she held a piece of jade in her hands. This is the child's family heirloom. Please give it to him when he comes of age. The enemy not only harmed the child, but his biological parents will also suffer a curse. After saying this, the grandmother stepped forward to comfort the mother. You've suffered. Don't worry, child. At that time, both lives will be lost. The 2 furious spirits will become mindless, and will only obey the one who cast the spell. Such a vicious spell. Only a deep blood feud could lead to such revenge. The soul is placed into the body of a woman born under the same infant year, infant month, and infant hour. And this woman must be a direct blood relative of the child. Once the child in the womb matures, without waiting for the woman to give birth, she will be tortured to death. Grandma explained that the child was placed in the woman's belly by someone. How could there be an umbilical cord? And the evil spell is a fierce fetus. It involves taking the newly formed baby out of the body, then mixing it with the blood of the 5 poisons. As her belly burst open, I was born smoothly. Grandma Long worriedly picked me up. The child of ENGSUB has finally been born. However, Old Chen suddenly asked why the child doesn't have an umbilical cord. 100 demons roamed the night. You and I might have lost our lives here. As the midnight bell tolled, Old Chen raised his large blade, and without hesitation, severed the centipede clinging to my mother's belly. Their cultivation speed is 100 times faster than ordinary people. That's why they're the best choice for a ghost to possess. Now the gates of the underworld have opened wide. The haunted houses within 100 miles are waiting for their chance. At the moment of this child's birth, if the child is born at this moment, it means the mother dies in childbirth, and the baby is born with 100 ghosts laughing. The living weep, but the child is naturally born with psychic abilities. Once they step onto the path, at that time, it will be 2 deaths with 1 body. He and the fetus will become a vengeful mother and child duo. Then he will roam with scissors, taking lives. He will target nearby pregnant women as his substitutes. Tonight is the year of the infant, the month of Een, and the Een day. Oh no, the fetus in this woman's corpse is hanging by a thread. Granny Long immediately calculated with her fingers. If the fetus in Haunua's womb dies, the lady's obsession will dissipate. Roaring, saying that he's still alive. Granny Long immediately realized that this was a deliberate trap. This is a vicious act. How could such a vile person use such a malicious and sinister sorcery to harm others? Seeing this, Granny seemed to think of something. My child is still alive. Grandma Long sighed, you are devoid of vitality. It's merely the obsession of being a mother. The fetus in your womb has probably long perished. My mother tore open the fabric on her belly. Sternly, she said to the mother, I am a disciple of the Ma Xian family. How could I let you make such threats? Indulge here. I see my mother being whipped to the ground. Muttering, am I not dead? Eyes glaring with menace. Roaring, begging you to save the child in her womb. Before he could finish, a whip suddenly lashed onto the mother. Old Lady Long from next door, holding a long whip, entered the yard. Stay away from her. She's not alive. She's a corpse. These words made old Chen stumble back in shock, but the mother grabbed him tightly. Wrist in danger. Standing barefoot in the snow, kind-hearted old Chen scolded, in this freezing weather. Why is a pregnant woman like you running around aimlessly? Just as he was about to pull the mother inside to rest, the elderly Madame Long from next door suddenly shouted, don't bother with her. At that time, my mother, with her big belly, was seeking help from house to house. But because of the festival, they all turned her away at the door, until she knocked on the door of old Chen's house. He saw my mother with her big belly. It's all because I am the rare child of extreme Een. Once I cultivate the ghostly path, my speed will far surpass that of ordinary people by 100 times. But because of this, she became the target of countless evil spirits vying for possession. It was exactly the ghost festival on July 15th. I was born, and the headless ghost king protected me at his chest. The legendary Snow Lion General personally cleared the way for me. Even the horse immortal, Xian Longpa, was willing to risk her life to save me. Even the one and only ghost immortal, Aunt Granny, recognized me as her beloved nephew.